right, good evening, folks. I would like to call to order the Select Board meeting for March 7th, 2023. We will be, I believe, we're live on RCTV this evening with Rob, is our videographer. Tonight's agenda, we will start out with public comment. We will go to liaison and town manager reports. At 7:30, we have an update from the town accountant. And if she delivers good enough news at 8 o'clock, we will have a vote to reappoint her for the next term.
No press, Sharon.
About 8:10, discussion about town council. At 8:30, we're going to take a look at the VASP recommendations that came forward to appoint volunteers to the boards. 8:45, Fidel's going to deliver a preview of the fiscal 24 water and sewer rates. About 9 o'clock, there are a couple of new items for the warrant, so we're going to have to vote again to close the warrant to include those items. 9:15, we're going to talk about and vote on town manager goals. This will be our second discussion on town manager goals. About 9:30, we're going to talk about fostering more volunteering for Reading boards. 9:40, we're scheduled here to talk about purchase of real property for municipal use related to 17 Harnden. The major update that we thought we might have for this evening, we don't yet have. It got delayed until later this week. So there are probably a few items just to talk about in open session, but I don't think there's a need for anything else this evening. And we'll talk about future agenda items and approved meeting minutes. All right, so let's move to public comment. What I would ask is that anyone who wants to speak for public comment, you're going to address your remarks to me, the chair, and we ask that you keep your comments to about 2 minutes. So, see two people who'd like to speak. Peter, you kind of got me on the way. So please come up to the podium, just introduce yourself, name and address.
Now, huh?
Absolutely.
Peter Kramer, Franklin Street, 70-year resident of this town. I'm here because of what's happened to the Board of Public Works. The last town manager cut their salaries, gave them nothing for raises. We used to be the highest paid public works in the Middlesex County, now we're one of the lowest. They're bailing out of here like mice off a ship. But I'm sure you will back me on this. I've had quite a few people leave the town after we've spent money training them and getting their licenses. I know of 4 or 5 that have gone to Wakefield in the past year. They jumped because of $4 an hour. That's $10,000 a year, plus not counting overtime they can have. You can't run a town without a public works. It's the nuts and bolts to this town. The select board and our last town manager cut it down to nothing. And I know these guys are hard-working guys. I know a lot of them. A lot of them work for me part-time. I mean, most of them are old and gone by now, like me. But they're a good group of guys, hard-working guys, and you guys don't treat them fair. You don't pay them enough money. You worry about everybody else in town except those guys. And I'm not alone. And I think it's time you looked into it and give this man the right to give them some overtime to make up for the money they don't get hourly waged. Because the snow plowing's horrendous. It's disgusting, the plowing of this town. You go around, look at all the towns around us, what Reading used to laugh at. And their plowing is much better than ours because we don't have the men to put in all the pretty equipment you bought. The equipment's no good unless you got the men. All right, so let's get on the stick and take care of the nuts and bolts of this town. And this has been going on for years. We have a new man at the helm here. He understands public works. Give him the latitude to take care of this town. All right? And then one more quick thing. Have the zoning enforcement officer pull up all these political signs that are on town property. We have a bylaw in this town that says no political signs on town property. The tree lawn is not your property, it belongs to the town. There are many, many of them on Franklin Street, illegal signs. So let's get the zoning enforcement officer, Lord knows we got enough building in the building department. Send them down to Public Works, help Public Works. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Peter. Melissa, please.
Hi, Melissa Murphy, 97 Van Norden Road. I was looking at the packet and I saw that you'll be discussing water rates tonight and the proposal to move to a tiered water rate system. While this fixes the equity issues we see in our water bills and helps those in our town that are seniors or live alone, it will increase water bills for those in the higher tiered level. Most of those residents have pools and sprinkler systems, and I think this would be the perfect opportunity to investigate allowing separate meters for non-sewer water use. I believe this would be a solution many residents would find appealing and minimize the hit from the increase in the water bills. It would also generate additional revenue for the town via plumbing permits and support our local plumbing businesses. In addition, I looked at the sewer enterprise fund and it's much more of a stable position compared to the water, and now would be the perfect opportunity to discuss the transition to a second meter if properly inspected. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to speak this evening?
When you were here first.
Liz, please come on up.
Hi, Select Board friends. Liz Whitelam, Gilmore Avenue, Precinct 4. I don't know how many ways do I identify as a business owner in town. I'm here tonight because I saw that there was an agenda item to discuss our town council. And rarely is there a chance to publicly laud and thank somebody who works for the town, and I thought I would take the opportunity to do so. So in my role on the park committee and as a member of town meeting, I've had the chance to work with Ivrea. She has provided, I think, just incredible advice and counsel, sometimes to me as an individual. As in the park, there were like potential conflicts of interest that I didn't even know was a problem, and she very helpfully brought that to light and helped me navigate that situation. And just in general, observing her as a resident of this town, the way she contributes to town meeting, the way she contributes to select board meetings, I'm just really delighted by her thoughtful, measured analysis of issues that are put before her, her astonishing understanding of municipal legal nuance, and her knowledge of when to research something further if she doesn't know, although I'm again amazed by how much she seems to know off the top of her head. Her understanding of when to ask for additional help from her firm, her responsiveness, I think, is really terrific. And knowing that most of us are just cycling in and out of these volunteer roles, some with, some of us have very little expertise or knowledge. And this is a person whose actual job it is to have this knowledge. And I think the town of Reading is extremely fortunate to have this resource. I've just really appreciated watching her work and seeing what she has contributed to our discourse and to our discussion. And so I just wanted to publicly say, even though Ivrea herself is not here, thank you to her and her firm for the, I think, truly excellent support that they have given this town. Thank you.
Excellent timing. Please, come on up. I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Jessie Arnold.
Oh, hello, Jesse Arnold.
So I'm Jessie Arnold. I live on Berkeley Street. I am a member of the Bylaws Committee, but I am here speaking today as myself. I am not speaking on behalf of the Bylaws Committee. I am here also because I saw that there was a review of Ivrea. And I'm here today to express my gratitude and my thanks to her for her work as town council. I'm a member of the Bylaws Committee, I'm a town meeting member, and I am also an attorney. And as a member of the Bylaws Committee, I have sat in many meetings with Ivrea, and she is always thoughtful, deliberate, conscientious, and helpful. Her advice is always well considered and backed by state and local law or relevant case law. Ivrea is excellent at explaining legal concepts and principles in ways that they can be easily understood by all, something which I can attest that not every lawyer can do. As an attorney, I've been very impressed watching Ivrea advise town meeting. Many areas of the law are not black and white, with concrete yes or no answers. Instead, the law often changes and exists in shades of gray, with answers being more if X, then Y, or it depends. Each set of facts is different, so it is sometimes hard to give a concrete yes or no response. However, Ivrea always gives answers with solid legal reasoning. I've watched Ivrea be called on to explain how a warrant article can work with existing bylaws or the general laws of Massachusetts, and I remain impressed with her clear and well thought out answers. I have also seen how Ivrea provides opinions to town officials that are in line with the law in order to empower them to make informed decisions for Reading residents. Ivrea has done an excellent job in service to the town of Reading, and I look forward to continuing to work with her. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other members that would like to speak? I think we've covered the audience in here pretty well. Anyone online that would like to speak this evening?
Yes, I have Angela.
Hi, Angela.
Hello, Angela Benda, Orchard Park Drive. I'll keep this brief because I want to echo my support and my thanks to our town council, Ivor Freed. I have been watching her. I've been watching town council for many years, and I think that she is one of the best that we've had. She is thorough, she is clear, she's informed. I find that she's conservative in her advice. I hope we see her. I hope we continue to see her at town meeting. I look forward to seeing her. I also Googled her resume, and didn't know all of this before, but I just want to read it out very quickly. She graduated magna cum laude from University of Vermont. Her law degree is from Northeastern University. She graduated summa cum laude with a master's in environmental law and policy from the Vermont Law School. She's interned at the Department of Justice, the Conservation Law Foundation, and the Massachusetts Appeals Court. She serves on the executive board. She's an executive board member of the Mass Municipal Lawyers Association. She was named a Rising Star in the category of environmental law, and she's been recognized as one of the state's up-and-coming lawyers. So I think she's doing a great job, and I look forward to hearing more from her at select board meetings and at town meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Angela. Any other members that would like to speak? Any other members of the public that would like to speak online?
I do not see anyone else.
All right. Thanks, folks. By the way, just a quick update if I could. We had talked about getting some amplification set up in this room. It's a little behind. It turns out it's slightly more complicated. But, sorry, stop myself. But it is something that's on the priority list in terms of getting done for this room. So hopefully a nearer term solution. Then I know there's a longer term one, but something of a nearer term would be great also. Okay, so let's do select board liaison and town manager report. Thanks, folks, for joining this evening. Carlo, please.
I'll go, thank you. Board of Health, I was not able to attend, but through Dr. Lopez, they've been updating our tobacco regulations. I think that was mentioned at another meeting. And they continue to go through that, and they're planning to have a hearing in the spring with our tobacco retailers to get feedback and talk to them about the upcoming changes. Also, the town through the Board of Health is doing a community needs health assessment. Community health needs assessment. That's a tough one. Say that fast. And they've hired a peer associates to do a 9-month review of our health needs in town. So, and they're going to have a planning committee for that. So that was the Board of Health. Rec committee tried to meet again via Zoom, and they couldn't meet quorum. So that meeting should happen next Monday. And Benjamin Cares reached out to me today I spoke to him this morning in regards to the Common District Meeting House. They seem to be moving along at a much better pace now. No opening date yet, but we can, fingers crossed on that. And I'm sure someone else will mention Winterfest and our big pickleball event on the 11th. All right, I'll do the pickleball event. So on March 11th, the Reading Pickleball Players Association, which is a nonprofit similar to Friends of Reading Tennis, is trying to raise money to move pickleball forward. We're having a big event on the 11th, that is sold out in the field house indoors for lessons and for open play. And I'll be instructing that day, so I look forward to seeing everybody, and it should be a fun family event.
Just a couple of questions about your comments. In terms of rec and not getting together, we have a spot that we're reserving on our meeting for the 21st, potentially to take a vote on lines at Sturgis.
They're meeting next Monday.
Okay. So maybe if, how that vote goes would be great, maybe if Fidel can share that with the board
Of course.
before the meeting. Because so, as I understand it, the goal on the 21st is going to be to discuss and vote.
Hey.
If it's possible.
Hopefully, I think the Wellesley footage of Wellesley pickleball has definitely stirred things up a bit.
Okay.
There was some news coverage about the how loud pickleball is, and that time was perfect timing when the letters went out to all the abutters. So I think Monday night's going to be a fun meeting.
Got it. Okay, so and that was my second question was just that if and when they're able to present
Correct.
on the 21st, just to talk about abutters, players, the different communities, just so that we're kind of informed.
Yeah, I don't think it's in another community. Like right now, I think the main goal is Sturgis because there's money in the budget for that. I know they want to push Washington Park forward, but that's not a priority. The priority is Sturgis. That's where the money is right now. And then maybe Washington will be brought up, but that's I don't think the main agenda
Good.
of moving some dual use courts forward. So we'll see how it goes on Monday. Hopefully they can be quorum.
Great. Okay, next up. Chris.
Thanks, Mark. Winterfest is on Thursday. Other than Winterfest on Thursday and pickleball on Saturday, Jackie and I had the pleasure during our mass meeting today to interview a bunch more candidates for various boards and committees. I think the biggest thing that came out of it is someone is coming from Avon, Connecticut or whatever to Reading and has already applied in before he's even got here. So we can't vote on it, et cetera, because he doesn't live here yet. But the fact that somebody like that was willing to do that because he's volunteered forever down there and he wants to do the same thing up here. The other good thing that came out of the meeting is I once again joked around like I usually do with things, and I think I got his wife when she came on camera to commit to the rec committee, which might help with this quorum scenario that's getting brought up.
When are they
So we'll see. April 14th. I said Pi Day during the meeting, but that's March 14th, not April 14th. So they didn't correct me, so I guess they're all right.
Not the finance committee.
Yeah. But other than that, it's been a real pleasure to interview all these people that just heard from things from various ways. So we'll go over more when we get to that point. But it was just top of mind today because we just interviewed everyone. So that's what I got.
Awesome, thanks. Karen.
Sure, yeah.
All right, sorry, Jackie.
Only update I have is CPAC. I just wanted to flag a couple of events that they have going on with some other organizations in town on March 8th, which is tomorrow, and 22nd, Wednesdays at 4. CPAC and the library is hosting a therapeutic art program for adults with developmental disabilities, including autism spectrum disorder and other developmental disabilities, again on March 8th and 22nd. Also on March 30th, it's still a couple weeks away, a number of organizations in town, including the rec committee or the rec department, the YMCA, the Pleasant Street Center, the schools, and CPAC are hosting an event on overcoming hurdles to disability inclusion. This is something that Sudeshna has also been working on, and I know it's something we've talked about in terms of inclusive design with the potential new community center. So just wanted to flag it for folks. And then last item, health related, there will be a vaccine clinic for COVID and flu this Friday, March 10th from 3 to 5 at the Coolidge Middle School. I echo what Chris said about the VASC. We had, I think, 3 sets of interviews with like 7 or 8 people in the last 2 weeks. And it's been encouraging to see the interest and hopefully address some of the most urgent needs on boards and committees.
Awesome, thanks. Karen.
So I attended the Mass School Building Association's recent meeting, and I will let Fidel update you and the community on the great news coming out of that. And Mark, I think you were there as well. But I did just want to say that, so there were a number of people from Reading there, and Fidel spoke on our behalf and did so amazingly well and really represented the project. And so kudos and thank you very much for doing that. And so last night I attended the Reading Housing Authority. And they were discussing the fact that we have a new Reading Housing Trust, which is great news. And transportation issues came up from some residents that attended, the inability to get a ride to a dialysis appointment between the hours. Actually, the dialysis appointments were scheduled for about 6 a.m. and you need to have someone drive you home. So he has a car, this person has a car, but our transportation doesn't start till 9. Other transportation options don't seem to be working. So let me put a pause on that for a second, because then I was able to bring that up to the Council on Aging at after this meeting. But the other thing that I wanted to let this board know is that, so we had a change of ownership on Minot Street, and there is a 12-unit building over there. And I haven't had time to do much investigation. I'm under the impression they were all tenant at will. They are, many of them, very, very long-time residents over there. The building was sold, as you can imagine, in this economy, it was sold for a large amount. These residents, 12 separate units, were told that their rents will be increasing $600 to $700. And they immediately started calling the Reading Housing Authority. So kudos to our housing director. She reached out to our state legislators. She's trying to get them the resources they can. Obviously, we all know. We know about the housing affordability issue, and we know that we have a very long waiting list. So it's the middle of winter still. It's a little discouraging. But I wanted to say kudos to the director for doing that, and I just asked her to please let us know as well that anytime she feels that it is time to call the state, please let the select board know, and Fidel, of course. And so I would like to ask what we as a body might be able to do for these folks when folks on Main Street lost due to the flooding, were kicked out of that building. There was a lot of, I think there was a fund started up by Reading Co-op. Maybe there's something we can do to help these residents. So I'd love to talk about that a little bit. But those are the two things that came out of the Reading Housing Authority. And next I attended the Council on Aging. And of course, I'll let Mark talk on this as well. It was quite a long meeting, but it was action-packed. Boy, it was like a select board meeting. They just charged through this major agenda. So one of the takeaways I was super happy about is that we have been talking about starting a Friends of Reading Seniors. You know, specific name to be determined, but you know, kudos to a few of the members on the Council of Aging, including Nancy Zeke, have a meeting set up with some willing volunteers, and I know our director, our new senior center director, has been helping. And so that is amazing forward progress. So we have volunteers willing to start this, and like Friends of the Library and Friends of Sports programs, you know, apparently there are people willing to do this, and this can be a great source of funding for programming for the seniors. And I did bring up the issue of transportation to the Council on Aging, and I came away with an understanding that there are at least 5 or 6 different ways that seniors and other people needing transportation and medical appointments can reach out, but some are income dependent, some preclude if you're in this program or this housing, you can't. It's more complicated than it seems. And I did suggest that perhaps we as a community might be able to put together a matrix. I don't know whether this is a gap that the town needs to start filling in, and Jenna also spoke, and she said they have been in conversation with North Reading and also Uber, sort of exploring options, which is wonderful because transportation is a big part of our senior center plan. But, you know, it's eye-opening to understand that when you're a senior, you have all these places to go, but it was pretty Byzantine, and I'm not even a senior yet, so I'm not looking forward to this. You can drive yourself to dialysis, but you need a ride home. And if they're not gonna pick you up, it becomes very problematic, and if you're going twice a week, it becomes a real life challenge. I was personally shocked that they were scheduling these so early in the morning. So I wanted to share that with the board. I did attend the finance committee last week, and they covered the school budget. And I understand Wednesday they're going to start covering the town side. So I encourage residents to please tune into that, town meeting members, and certainly forward your comments to the board, to the finance committee. This is your opportunity to understand where your tax dollars are going. I cannot go tomorrow night, so I'm hoping one of you folks will be able to tune in. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. So a few more updates. Piggyback a little bit on some of the activities with the Council on Aging and with Recalc. So Recalc met with the Council on Aging last week, and the focus of that presentation was the latest rendering from the architect, which is included in our packet this evening. And I think it was very well received. I think it was a chance to see what could happen in a more elaborate sort of fashion. And I think it addressed many of the needs that folks have been expressing, perhaps even went beyond the needs into some wants as well. But it was very warmly received. The follow-ups, first of all, are from Recalc. The committee is putting together a presentation. They'll be appearing before us on the 21st of March. And this will be their presentation, and the feeling from the group, I believe, is that they have accomplished the mission that we gave them, the charge that we gave them at this point, and are asking the board if there are other things that we would like for them to do, yes or no, as it relates to the next activities. So that's going to be coming on the 21st. In terms of the Council on Aging, Karen covered really nicely a lot of the activities. Again, a lot of enthusiasm. I think that it feels to me that the community is starting to coalesce around this opportunity, and if we're able to work it through, that would be fantastic. And even if we're not, I think they're coalescing around the strong need for a new facility that needs to take place sooner rather than later. The council specifically is talking about a Friends of activity, and they're meeting on that. They also asked how they could be more involved in the selection of an architect in the project going forward. And we encourage them, rather than waiting for anything, to take a very active role now and share with us their thoughts on some of the qualifications that would make sense for an architect to be able to participate in the bid, to see what that might look like. There were some questions about kind of how that process would go, and I think the encouragement that they received was to participate now up front, to get their information in, and they took that to heart, and I believe there's plans to have a meeting within 2 weeks to be able to share some of that input with us. So I think that will be really good. Karen also mentioned transportation, and this is becoming a much larger issue in terms of not just a new facility, but how we work with seniors today and how we work on that. So I think the Council on Aging is very aware of it, is thinking about different ideas. The programs we do have, the Reading Response is income limited, which is great for folks who are in that opportunity, but for others it's not. And it would behoove us to do some things. There are some community members that are looking into this specifically, and I think we'll be coming forward and have already to the council to talk about it. And I think it could be a real bonus for the next activity we do. The other thing that seems to be going on a little bit is a discussion about what would be the best way to describe this building, not in terms of a nickname for it, but rather the senior community, the Council on Aging, is very, very focused on age 60 plus. Recalc in its charter was also age 60 plus, and making sure that that's kind of the first set of needs that we take care of. And that beyond that, there may be other opportunities. So we may want to be careful in how we refer to this location. And I think that the name of the committee we came up with, just the Center for Active Living, may be a good, at least placeholder for now in terms of how to talk about it. Certainly opportunity for age 60 plus older adults, intergenerational activities, and it may be that the Active Living Center is a good way to think about it in terms of words. So, and I think that covers, it does. Thanks. Fidel.
Thank you. I'll do just 3 quick items. The first is that the Killam School has been officially voted on to enter the feasibility state. We had a call and a vote and a press release was issued from the town, and that is in the packet as well. We signed today the feasibility study agreement, which once it is countersigned, basically it starts the process. We are going to be issuing a request for services for an OPM, so to hire essentially the OPM for this project. And with those, there is no opportunity for comment, really. It's a process that is set by the MSBA, but that just to bring everyone to speed, that the process is moving quite nicely and fast. Another item that I wanted just to mention to the board, in town meeting, in the warrant, before you tonight, there's one article, and it's been there all throughout, and it's not a new article. It was Article 14 to request from town meeting the possibility to reallocate funds from an existing project to Birch Meadow, Phase 1. If you recall, we heard from the architect that with inflation and everything else that is happening in the economy, the estimate that was given at ARPA of $1.5 million was gonna be blown out, and unfortunately in this case the architect was correct. In your packet today, in my memo, essentially, there's three tables of what I think are the options that we have. If you recall, the project was essentially the Imagination Station parking lot, the spine, lacrosse wall, and the spine had the lights. So that we essentially. Bid the project in two because of procurement rules. The first one is essentially the flat work or what I'm calling infrastructure, and the second one is the building. So we had a little gazebo, if you recall, that was going to have 2 bathrooms and an area for tables and chairs. So the essentially we have 3 options before us. The first option is to only do the infrastructure, which again is the parking lot, the spine, the lacrosse wall, and the lighting up along the spine. Option 2 is to do all of it, and then option 3 is to do the building only. We've had a few meetings, internal, and we continue to have those conversations internally and also with the architect. I will bring an update to the select board on March 21st, because it does have an impact on the town meeting warrant. Nothing has to be done to the warrant itself. The amounts being requested will be handled in the motion. And the last update is that we will be having a forum with DPW on March 27th at 6 p.m. to just refresh everyone on our proposal that is to provide trash and recycling carts to all residents. And I think you're hearing the same comments, but what we're hearing on our end just consistently is how some residents would like the ability to be offered a smaller barrel. And in the room today, they'll be here probably for the next 30 days. We have samples of those smaller barrels.
Sorry. Fidel, just a quick question on the recommendation you'll be bringing to March 21st, so we'll add that as an agenda item? Yes, okay. All right, we should do that. Any other questions or comments, board members? Chris?
Thanks, Mark. So how do we go that way off to double the price of the Birch Meadow project? That just seems like not even in the realm of what should ever happen on anything, even with inflation.
So what the architect presented last June, right? Last June was in a range, if you recall, right, from like 1.5 to 1.7, I believe, or it was a range. The entire project hadn't been designed yet, right? So in the design phase, and you know, they are attributing a lot of this to just the economy where we're at, and escalators and inflation. They told us before we went out to bid that you know, the price might be high. We certainly did not expect it to be this high, certainly. And you know, the conversations that we're having internally is what do we do? Where do we go from here? And so, you know, I mean, this was competitively bid. We received a range of bids. It wasn't one company. There was a spread in terms of the numbers that came in.
And between the building only and the infrastructure only, when you add them up, that's the infrastructure plus the building. But to me, that would seem like things should be less when you got both of them done at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not talking something significant, but the price can't be exact on the nose.
So the way that we did it, right, is if we had bid everything at one project, then we would have had to abide by chapter 149M, which essentially is building a building, which has a whole lot of things, right, attached to it. We would need an OPM. We would need, you know, it'd be more like building a you know, facility, essentially. So we checked in with the state, and they said that typically when a project like this happens, they are built independently, because what we heard from the architect is that the company that is going to do the parking lot, for example, right? They've got excavators, you know, and do more roadway work, as opposed to the companies that do a building are more masons, roofers, plumbers, right? So it's very different trades. So the recommendation was to bid them separately. So what you're seeing here is essentially two separate bids, two separate projects.
And which part of this breakdown is the parking? Because I know during ARPA, that was the biggest takeaway, was it just seemed it was way overinflated at like $450. I believe is roughly what that was going to end up costing for the parking lot. Like, are we talking that's like $1 million now?
No. So we did not bid the parking lot separate. I mean, it basically so the infrastructure includes the sidewalks, right? All the curbing, obviously, in the parking lot. It includes the spine, right? So it's anything that is roadway. It's roadway.
So I'm just thinking differently between the parking lot and then everything else. This is attached to this,
That is attached to that.
so we can't say no to this, do all
We
this.
cannot say no to that, do all that. That's correct. We cannot say that. Yeah, it's right. We cannot not do the parking lot.
And then my other question is, during the paying class study, DPW was not involved in those kind of rates?
So I think what the speaker shared today is DPW union employees. DPW union employees that are bound by union contract.
So just to follow up, but wouldn't paying class still apply to them?
The pay and class study that we did was for non-union employees. Non-union employees.
I thought that our union employees and non-union were basically in somewhat lockstep. Is that not the case?
I don't know if I have an answer to that. So in terms of unions, I mean, we've got police, fire, custodians. In DPW, there's a few, right? The engineering union is one. The laborers are another one. So each one is its own union. It wasn't.
Could we ask you for next meeting, maybe if there's a little bit of an update, maybe that's a good way to do it, just to see if there's any information you can share.
Sure.
Get you on track. Yeah.
Thank you. So I met with Jay Kinsella last fall during Trashgate, and so at that time she, shared what I thought was good news, and I reported to this board that there was only one opening as opposed to 12. They were fully staffed. Something changed dramatically since last fall.
I'm not sure that there are 2 openings, but I'll verify how many openings there are.
So no, there. earlier last year, we had a dozen openings, and she had come and told us that, but when I met with her in the fall, she said, no, we've been successful in hiring people, we're down to one opening. But the speaker was talking about lots of defections as this happened, and
Can I suggest if we could maybe give us an update at the next meeting and then, because this isn't really on our agenda
How
for
many openings
tonight.
we have?
No, but it'd be great information to share.
okay, I have one question about the town manager's report. I did literally two bathrooms, I'm blown away by that building cost. Would it be possible for you to share the specs that came back? I don't know if we sent out the detailed specs or they,
We did, yeah.
yeah, it just,
It was fully designed, I mean,
it's just
yeah.
blowing my mind.
We feel exactly the same way.
Okay, thank you.
We feel exactly the same
Because
way. These numbers are crazy.
We purchased modular school classrooms that didn't cost that much. I don't think they were $1 million each. But it is mind-blowing.
This is, we were also blown away.
Thanks.
Any other comments, questions? All right, let's move on to town account financial update. Hi, Sharon.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you. I've got 2 PowerPoints for you, so I'm going to start with the first one, which is the municipal financial assessment. I'm going to share my screen if I can. I'm going to start with this one instead because I can see this one. Okay. We'll start with our financial update and then I'll go through the municipal assessment because I have it open, but it wasn't giving it to me as an option, so I might have to open it after. And it's showing me the view. Let me just switch the view.
Yep, we're saying presenter view. Yep, there it is.
So I'm going to start with the financial update and then I'll go into the municipal. So this is our revenues for the general fund as of 2/28 compared to where we were at the same time last year in February. So last year we were at 72.7% of budget collected and we're at about 71.1%. Through February, I would expect if revenues were collected equally throughout the year to be at like 67%. So I feel like we're pretty much in line with where we need to be. But I was going to, on some of the following slides, talk about some of the things that don't kind of fall in line with that philosophy, like motor vehicle excise and such. So we'll see those comments on the next slide. So motor vehicle excise, you can see that was like a 25% collection percentage, and that's because our first commitment of the year doesn't go out until February. So we're just starting to get those bills paid. So the 25% was pretty much in line with what we saw in the prior year, about 26%, and hopefully will be, not a problem for the year. But at this point, it's too early to say what our total revenues will be, but at least it's in line with what we've seen in prior years. Other excise taxes is actually your meals tax and rooms tax. And we receive these revenues quarterly from the state. And this particular report only included 2 quarters received thus far. So we would just need to be over 50%, which we are. Federal revenues, the only revenue that we project in our general fund for federal revenues is Medicaid, which is reimbursement based and it's done on the school side. And so it's not consistent throughout the year. It's not like it's given to us monthly. It's based on when they do their reimbursements. And when you look at the first slide, we were kind of, I want to say we were, I'm looking down at it. We are at 229% last year, and it was because they had a lot of catch-ups last year, fiscal 21 reimbursements coming into fiscal 22. So comparability of the numbers looked strange. But these revenues are not monthly. They're not something that would necessarily be at that 66% at any point in time. It's based on the timing of the school department putting in the reimbursements. State revenues weren't quite at 66%, but that is because as of this date, the state revenues that were recorded in the general ledger were for July through January. We do collect our revenues each month at the end of the month. And so on February 28th, we hadn't recorded February yet. And so the percentages that we saw for collection are in line with the projection. So these are the expenses, and I just, for each department, I gave you a different slide just so you can see kind of what I look at it, and determine whether or not there's areas I'm concerned about. So this is administrative services. Now, out of all of the pieces of information you see here, salaries is probably the only one that's kind of spent consistently throughout the year. So I always look to that 67% to see if the salaries are over that, because that would tell me or indicate to me that maybe we might be trending too high. And in this case, we are not. Expenses are a little bit harder. They're not necessarily trending like monthly at the same rate. So this 77.3, I would look into it and see if there was any line items that were trending over as we approach April town meeting, and then ask for funds if necessary. In this case, I don't think I am. All of those expense line items met my expectations. Capital, we would expect a high percentage because we tend to, purchase all at once. We encumber it as soon as we enter a contract and purchase something. So seeing a high percentage when it comes to capital is not a big deal. This is public services. Their percentage is just slightly over, but this is the department where Gene Delios had worked, and now Matt is doing public services and administrative services, so his salary is being split. So there's no real need there for any request of funds for salaries. Expenses are pretty low, and capital, like I said, they tend to encumber those funds as soon as they make their purchase. So a high percentage, we want them to spend those funds so they don't close out to free cash. Finance, we're within all my expectations, are all under 67%, no concerns of any deficits. Public safety was running a little bit high in salaries. We do have a couple requests at April town meeting because we've had several vacation buybacks for retirees. I think we've had like 3 retirements in police alone. So we do have some requests at April town meeting, and that will bring that percentage down. Also, we have 3 disability retirements for firefighters, and what we tend to do there, because they keep being charged to the fire budget, at the April town meeting, we asked for funding to put it in the benefits area. We moved their salaries there, and that will allow the fire chief to begin hiring to replace those people that are going out on disability retirement. We also note that these expenses seem pretty high for the time of year, and in total look to be in the police department. Public safety is made up of police, fire, and health. When I dug into this 82.8%, the police department was on the high side, and I spoke to Dave Clark and said, are we in need of any funding? And he said no. He said he's got a lot of things already encumbered and he's in good shape. So we are not requesting any additional funds, even though that number looks pretty high. Public works, salaries are under due to vacancies. There are 59.7 instead of the 67 I would expect. We do have some April town meeting requests for expenses, and I list them on the slide. 85,000 for fuel. Fuel is high, as we know. 25,000 for parts and equipment, and 5,000 for supplies. Snow, trash, and street lighting are different line items within the budget, but we kind of group them together on the slide, but I show them individually. They are all voted bottom line, but the only one that really has salary expense is snow. We seem to be in good shape as of 2/28, but if it continues to snow, who knows? Maybe we will be asking for something at April town meeting. But at this point, we are fine. The trash percentage looks high, but we tend to encumber all of our contracts, and as of this 2/28 report, I was wondering why we had 305, and then after I was done, I actually saw the last encumbrance come through, so I wasn't concerned. We tend to encumber the whole contract, so 85.4%, although high, is pretty much everything we're spending. After that, I think I saw 150,000, so we still are in range. I saw an encumbrance come after I ran this report. Street lighting is at 52.4%, no concerns there. Facilities is within expectations on all the line items, and I had no concerns there. The library was within the range, no deficits noted. All the percentages seem to fall in line with my expectations. For benefits, we seem to be trending a little bit high at 74.7%, but in that benefits category, we have the retirement assessment, which is paid twice a year. Both payments have already been made, and that's a pretty big chunk of that benefits piece, so that would account for us being a little ahead of that 67%. And also workers' comp is paid at the beginning. That policy is paid at the beginning of the year for the whole year. We did have a health insurance premium in December, and that's already passed, and that line item looks like it might have maybe $80,000 left when all is said and done, so I'm not overly concerned in that regard. Debt service is in line, and vocational services, we still need another $35,000 for one of the schools that we are requesting at April town meeting. So now I'm going to move into the enterprise funds. These are the collection percentages compared this year to last year at the same time in February. Water's at 77.2%, sewer is at 76.8%, and stormwater at 72.9%. So that's well above the 67% I would expect, so we're doing well. I always keep an eye on it though, you never know. And these are the expenses. Enterprise funds tend to have lower percentages at this time of year because a lot of work is done in the enterprise funds, March through June when the weather starts to improve. So I wasn't overly concerned that they were low, but certainly they're not high, so we're in good shape. Any questions about this before we move on to the municipal assessment?
Board members, anything? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sharon, I had a quick question. Off the
Sure.
top of your head, who pays payment in lieu of taxes to the town aside from RMLD?
There is, there's maybe a few, and I'm trying to think the name of them.
Okay,
There's
if
like
I'm
maybe
putting you on the
3 or 4.
Yeah. Go
I
ahead.
can give you that information after off the top of my head. I
Absolutely.
can't remember the names
Yep.
of the organizations. But RMLD is the biggest one.
Mhm.
But the others are like not-for-profits within the town that agree to pay something in lieu of tax.
Okay, I would love to see that list when you have a moment. Thank you.
Sure, definitely.
All right, roll on.
Okay, we're moving on. Okay, so let me just close off on this one. When I went to share my screen, I couldn't see the municipal finance one. Let's see if I see it now. Oh, here it is.
There you go.
Okay, so Mark Doxer had asked me, he had sent me an email from DLS announcing their finance visualization data that they have just released. It's like a financial self-assessment. And so here on this front page of my PowerPoint, I give you the web address to get to that. It's for municipal employees or anybody who's interested in learning about different communities and what their numbers look like and what their financial health looks like. So this is the website. But I figured what I would do is when they say visualizations, they're providing more information in like graphical format. Some people are very visual and like to see things more in a colorful graph than necessarily like just numbers in a chart. And so they're trying to provide us more information in that format. So I figured I would show you a little preview of some of the information that you could get on Reading just by going to the site and just putting the down arrow to Reading and hitting go, and they give you all these different graphs.
Great.
So this is what comes up. The first one is total budget. So they'll give you for the last 11 years what our total budget is. And then they also give you total budget per capita, which is per person. So our budget in fiscal 22 is about just under $5,000 per person. They also give us population information. I'm not quite sure why 21 and 22 isn't there, but they also highlight for you what years were the highest. 2015, our population was slightly higher than all the other years, and then 2016 being the lowest. They give us income per capita and then also equalized valuation per capita. So that kind of information could be helpful. And then foundation school enrollment in fiscal 22 is our lowest school enrollment, which was interesting to see, and our highest being 2013. They also gave us income sources, and they show you revenue composition and color coding the chart, showing you 11 years of our revenue composition, obviously the dark blue being our tax levy, a little lighter blue at state aid, local receipts, enterprise funds. We don't have CPA currently, and then all other revenue types. And so it shows you the overall revenue and where it all comes from. So that's good information to have. State aid as a percentage of our budget. So we can see that in 2012, it was a higher percentage of our budget than it is today. So it's kind of been trending downward. And so that's not really news to us, but it kind of just graphically depicts it for us. Local receipts as a percentage of budget. So in 2022, it looks like our local receipts were under 8% of our budget. But back in 2012, it represented almost 9% of our budget. So it just shows some of the revenue sources make up a smaller percent of our budget, and it just kind of shows, the trend. Property tax levy, it shows you the property tax levy, how much of it's commercial. As we know, we're largely residential, the bigger piece is residential, and then what percentage of our total levy our budget represents. And obviously, property tax is our biggest revenue source, so it looks like it's probably over 65, almost 70%. Then they show the assessed values of our properties, showing residential and commercial, and then the annual percentage change, although this slide seemed a little bit less clear to me what the change percentage was. Like that was a little unclear to me, but that's what they're trying to depict there. Uncollected property tax, they show us that as well. Total receivables as a percentage of tax levy is the line that's in dark blue. And then they show you outstanding receivables that are real estate, personal property, and other revenues. You can see that we are typically under 2% left uncollectible, not uncollectible, but not collected at the end of the fiscal year. So we're usually at a very good percentage, usually like 1 point something, 1.5. So that's pretty good information. New growth. We did have a very good year in fiscal 22, probably the highest I've seen since I've been here. I think new growth was at 1.6 and 2% of our levies. That was good. And then the levy ceiling and excess capacity. So the levy ceiling, there's two different things that go on there. The levy ceiling is your max levy with overrides and everything included, and your regular levy, which is just 2.5% over the levy of the prior year. And so excess capacity is how much money you leave on the table that you don't tax. And so we tend to be very small on that because we need the whole 2.5%. If you're not doing an override, you really do need that whole 2.5%. So you can see that the numbers are fairly low. I think in 2014, we were trying to leave specifically some money on the table because of something going on with the high school settlement and money coming back that we got once we had gotten some things settled there. So I think that Bob had asked me specifically in 2014 to leave some excess capacity to give the taxpayer a break. But at the same time, we tend to tax as much as we can on the tax levy because it is our largest revenue source. They also show you our outstanding debt over the last 11 years. And outstanding debt as a percentage of equalized valuation, which is the value of all the property in Reading, an estimated value of all the property at a given date. And so they show you that as a percentage, if that information's of interest. And then debt service in the general fund as a percentage of budget. I know 2012 looks utterly bizarre there, $30 million of debt service, but I do know that in 2012 we had refunded the high school debt. So we would have kind of had paid off the existing debt service and taken out debt service, so that might be why that looks so funny, but generally our debt service is less than 5% of our budget. Below that, you see our bond rating. We do not use Moody. 11 years I've been here, we've never used Moody, but they keep a bond rating for us for whatever reason. We use S&P. In 2014, they upgraded us to a AAA bond rating, and so we've enjoyed the lowest possible interest rates ever since. The pension system, not quite sure why they don't have the most up-to-date data on 2021. Every 2 years, we do evaluation on the pension system, and it will give you how funded our liability is and what our total unfunded liability is. It seems like the last data they have is 2019. I know that I have the report for 2021, so seeing that makes me realize that they're missing some information, and I'll be reaching out to them. But it basically gives you an idea of how funded your system is and how much the unfunded liability is. They also give you information on overlay for abatements, and a lot of information there. Abatements granted, pending appellate tax board, how much is out there to be decided by the appellate tax board, how much receivables we still have at the end of a fiscal year for personal property and real estate. Then they show you a slide for our certified free cash and stabilization fund and what percent of our budget that represents. Looks like over 14 or 15%. It looks like maybe even higher than that on this presentation. And then in the bottom, the override and exclusions, they show you the debt exclusions each year for the last 11 years, and then they show you the one override that we had, which was in 2019. Now, this information has always been available, but I, pulled it out and just threw it into graphs just to give you some information, just to see through just a few peer communities, just to make it not overwhelming to look at. You can always pull information from the DLS website, select the communities you want to compare yourself to, and then it gives you the information, and it gives it to you in a chart format, but then you can always make a graph. So I just quickly made a graph of a few of these. So this one's the average single family tax bill, and Reading it's just under $10,000, but in Winchester it's over $16,000, so we look pretty good. So these are some of our peer communities. They're not all of them, but it gives us some comparison to look at to see where we're at compared to some of the ones we do have on our list of peer communities. This is our average family home value, Reading at $766,834, representing like the 48th percentile of home values. And then Winchester at 1.374, and then at the lower end, Danvers at 605,754. They also give you income per capita, which is income per person, and so we had about 69,000 here in Reading, but it shows you where all the other communities fall. And that is it. I just figured that would be helpful for you to know that there is a lot of information at your fingertips at the DLS website that you can access very easily. We've utilized this information in the past when we went for the override. Whenever you need to compare yourself to another community. So that's all I have.
Good.
Sharon, this is fabulous. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Sharon. I've been dying for this. Thank you. And DLS has done it. Our tax dollars hard at work. That's awesome.
It really is nice.
So the question, has the Finance Committee seen this yet?
I don't, this question that came up from Mark was sent to me just as we were getting an announcement from DLS. So this is kind of new here in February. So no, I don't think they have unless they saw it by clicking on it themselves, because I think a lot of people who serve on boards like FinCom or Select Board would have received an email and they probably could have clicked on it and saw what was available. Certainly something that we definitely would want to show them, so that if they want to use any kind of specific looking charts in our warrant book in the future or any presentation, whether it be town meeting, whatever the case might be. It's really helpful information, and it only takes minutes to get it off their website, which is nice. You don't have to build it all yourself.
I'm thrilled you don't have to build it all yourself, because we definitely need this. I mean, pieces of this for every town meeting, and as a regular diet at Finance Committee, it would be extremely helpful. I had a couple of questions. Am I reading the chart correctly that says certified free cash and stabilization fund? Because I have been asking for how is the percentage of our free cash and stabilization fund risen or decreased as our budget has risen? So am I reading this correctly, that as a percentage of our budget, our free cash and stabilization has also been rising? Am I reading that correctly?
Yes, it definitely has. does.
Okay, so this is definitely when we're talking to residents who are worried about these big projects like a new school and like an active living center, and they're worried about spending money, this is good information. Yes, that there is, there's more than sufficient reserves and so great, all right? And then the other takeaway I took, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm looking at the assessed residential values and they have gone through the roof.
Yes.
They're dark blue. So,
Yes.
and that is, you go ahead.
The dark blue assessed values represent our residential, and yeah, they grow typically faster than the commercial values for sure. And Reading tends to have, increased value in their property value in general. In recent years has gone up very quickly, so the assessment kind of falls in line with that same sort of thing. It's like it's behind what market value would be, but it's definitely within like a year and a half of what the current is. And so property values have been at a really high, for the last year or so. So I would say that our property values tend to go up faster than some of our peers. And in some cases, some peers might be faster than us, but yeah, the values in Reading tend to go up pretty fast.
So, as I'm talking to residents, I'm hearing a lot of pain points about high taxes in this town, and Victor has said exactly what you've said, that residential values and assessment values have gone up much more quickly. So then this is the chart that the select board might want to have the next time, we're talking about this. Okay, and it's right here on DLS. This is awesome. This is like a Christmas present. It's only February. I'm so excited.
A gift.
Thank you.
Jackie?
Yeah, thanks, Sharon. Just a couple questions. So on, I guess, slide 3 of the municipal self-assessment, it's slide 25 in our packet. The state aid, you had indicated that you're not surprised by the reduction in state aid as a percentage of our budget. What are the reasons for that reduction?
I don't really know, except that, even when they've had good years, it seems like we don't get tremendous increase year over year on our state aid. We almost always project 2.5% increase because FinCom allows us to, because when we're building our budget, we just don't know. But it does usually fall short of that. So, and that wasn't maybe the case in the past. It used to go up a lot more. So you can see, like in 2012, what a percentage of our budget it was. It was almost 15% of our budget.
Yeah.
We're not seeing in Reading an increase of 2.5% typically, even though that's what we build our budget off of. And so I'm not entirely sure. Even when the state has particularly good years, we don't necessarily even see a 2.5% increase. So we've been kind of more self-reliant. We know that state aid isn't always to be counted on to be at that 2.5%.
So the governor filed the budget last week, and it in it has a 2% growth, right, from FY23. So you see the trend essentially. My hope is that the same thing will happen this year that happened last year. If you recall, the governor's budget was significantly increased by the House and the Senate in the final version, and the unrestricted local aid number went from 2% to 4%. So I'm hoping that it happens, but it's really out of our hands.
But we probably could lobby our legislators a little bit about it.
Some phone calls, absolutely.
And then, thank you. And then my other question is on the, it's page 28 in our packet. I think it's page 5 or 6, Sharon, in the self-assessment on certified free cash and stabilization funds.
Yeah.
Yeah, either off the top or like referring to some resource. What stabilization funds does the town currently have?
It's about a little over $1.7 million. I've never seen us take any money out of it. The stabilization fund that we have was created the last time we had an override, not the 2019 override, but the one before that. And the money went in there as part of that override, and we haven't used it since. And it just earns interest. So it is a 2/3 vote to take money out of the stabilization fund. So a lot of times people just opt to use the free cash instead, but it is a form of reserves, and so it's always accounted for with free cash.
And does that include like the water and sewer? No.
So
Okay.
this is just general fund, and I don't know if they have any data that shows, but I actually just put together something for FinCom for questions for this week, for tomorrow. I can show it if you'd like. A 5-year analysis of what free cash looks like for water, sewer, and stormwater.
Yeah,
If you are
I can-
interested, I certainly can pull it up.
I plan on tuning in tomorrow night to FinCom, so
Yeah.
I'm good. Thank you.
So I'm sure they'll have me pull it up then, but one of the FinCom members had asked, what are those certified free cash? Where can I find that for the enterprise funds? We call it certified surplus. And I put together something that, shows them the last 5 years and what the generation looked like in water, sewer, and storm, and what the end balance is.
Okay, thank you.
Go.
Thanks, Sharon. I have a quick question on the community details page in our packet is 24. I know population is not there for 21 and 22, but I think I'm pretty confident it's higher than
Yeah.
20. But our enrollment is going down. So how often do you get together with the school side finance director to discuss planning and savings? And because I know our school budget, is the majority of our tax dollars go to it, but our enrollment has been going down the past couple of years and population's going up. So it's kind of,
Exactly.
how do we balance that?
I mean, the enrollment are typically numbers that the downside typically knows when we're building the budget. We have conversations in collaboration with the school, but they're more focused on the enrollment and at what schools and how they distribute their students. So we're not as involved in those details. I think that the enrollment was down in 2022 largely because of people seeking other options during the pandemic. I want to say I recall them making some comment about enrollment being a little bit down when we, went full back to full-time in-person school, that they started to see that the numbers had gone down because so many had maybe turned to private schools.
All right, thanks.
I'm not entirely sure because it's not my everyday to know what school enrollment is. So the school could probably answer that more effectively, but it is, a noticeable thing in the most recent year is our lowest enrollment.
If I could just add also, to your point, we know that the population is shifting in town, that the age 60 plus population is going up. And it's coming out of this group a little bit. The flip side of that is, in your other part of the question, I think, which was, well, if the enrollment's down, why aren't the expenses down? And I think that, I would let the school committee answer, obviously, but in the school department, but I think that the costs, the educational costs and requirements per student are higher.
Correct.
So that's why we're not seeing a change, but the population is definitely shifting in town. Chris?
Thanks, Mark, and thanks, Sharon. So for the stabilization fund, you said we have, $1.5 million is what?
1.7, a little over 1.7 million.
And do you anticipate us ever spending that on anything?
That's usually up to the FinCom and the town manager if they want to ask for stabilization as opposed to free cash. But there have been talks about putting more in stabilization to, we have this 7% reserve policy. There has been talk about moving 7%, making sure 7% sits in the stabilization fund because it is a 2/3 vote. It shows a commitment to saving that money. Nothing has kind of happened yet to do that, but there has been plenty of conversation surrounding that philosophy. So I wouldn't be surprised if that comes to pass. But stabilization fund is 2/3 vote, so it's a riskier vote at town meeting to get 2/3 as opposed to a majority. So when you have plenty of free cash, people are going to opt for free cash first. but it is a reserved fee that we have, and it's still available, and, you know, we can always ask for it. You know, I just feel like people just are more comfortable with free cash at a majority vote.
And would we be able to pay for the overage on Birch Meadow from the stabilization fund?
You could, but it would require a 2/3 vote of town meeting to do such, so.
I'll chime in and say that we haven't made a decision yet to recommend to the select board, but we were lucky that if you recall the Parker roof, we saw the opposite, right? So in the Parker roof, we originally had asked for $2.7 million, and the actual bid came at $1.3 million. So I will be advocating for moving money from funds that have been previously approved.
Previously borrowed as well.
Previously borrowed,
For
yeah.
Parker roof, yeah.
Thanks, Sharon.
One more question. I'm seeming to recall from my time on the finance committee that the finance committee created a stabilization fund as part of a request from or something to make the bond rating agencies happy that we were committed to saving as an organization to make sure we stayed at that AAA.
That makes sense, yeah, that would make sense why they would have done so at the time of the override, to put money aside, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Sharon. So, what do you think? Was the report good enough that we should take a vote on reappointing?
Maybe we take a break first, Mark. Yeah,
we have a
I think we're
motion.
good. Yes. On moving for the term, correct? Not something different.
Yeah, so we're appointing town accountant.
Yep. Move to appoint Sharon Angstrom as town accountant for a term July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion. So I would just chime in. I really appreciate working with you, Sharon, and I knew this would be a little bit of a lift to do this report, but I figured it'd be a great thing to do just to get some comparisons. And I think you're serving the town very well and very comfortable supporting reappointment. Absolutely.
100%. 110%.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon.
Any other discussion? None appearing. Let's go take a vote. All those in favor of the motion to appoint Sharon as town accountant for a term July 2023 to July 2024, raise your hand. Those opposed? We are 5-0. Sharon, you're back.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sharon. Thank you.
All right, 8:10, town council discussion. Everyone, do you have some thoughts you want to share first? Carla or Chris, I know that you wanted this agenda.
I guess I can go
Please,
first.
Chris.
It's weird, now I'm gonna look at him for you. Like, but,
Do you know Donna over here as well?
yes, I don't. Yeah, no, I think that, how I mentioned back then about the review, I know when I deal with contracts for my own company, everything gets reviewed every 3 years. I know that trash is exempt, and then law firms and a bunch of other random items are also exempt from the same kind of review, but I don't think that precludes us from always just looking at things on how to improve processes and make them better. I will say from all the invoices that Ivrea sent over, everything is extremely well detailed and documented. The rates I thought were lower than I thought they should have been, but you know, whatever. Just forget I ever said that. And all the times that I've reached out to her, she's been obviously very responsive. And you know, same thing with Fidel. It's if I ever text, email, whatever, she just gets back to me. But I don't think that doesn't preclude us from obviously some other things that have gone on that could be improved upon. Whether or not that's I don't want to say it with Mark because he's the chair, and then things only get discussed with you and Karen, and then brought before us because that's the way that things have to be. But on the major issue was obviously the menorah holiday discussion thing. And then going through the billing for that, it was $540 before the select board meeting to just go ahead and do that. And then afterwards, it was $9,000. So we're on the hook for 10 grand. I think for me that, obviously, hindsight's 20/20, but I think that a lot more planning on something super, like changing, like, we didn't know at the time that it was going to be something big because we all 5-0'd the menorah thing and that was the end of it. And then came the $9,000 after the fact. I think that if things were handled better in the beginning, we would have not been in that position. None of us wanted to be seeing all the emails and everything else that came through it. I'm happy we didn't make the news. But I think a lot more could have been done in the beginning. Now, subsequent to that, Ivrea has said that she's going to be including her memos and whatnot in the packet, or, you know, sent to us in advance on HUD items like that, not just random alcohol renewals or something. So it's good to see that, you know, because that happened, that is going to happen. I just think that there has to be more awareness on things where, for me, I always look at the positive and the negative of doing something. If we do this, what is going to happen? Plus, what is going to happen, what is going to happen, what is going to happen? That's the way that I think. I'm not saying that, you know, I didn't go to law school, so obviously Ivrea's on a different planet compared to qualifications for me. But just looking at the way that it was presented beforehand and then the end, it should not have gone that way, in just my opinion. So there's things that are out of our control, like the open meeting law complaints and whatnot back in January of 2022. That was close to $6,000 that, you know, if they were legitimate, they all obviously got ruled in our favor, but if they were, you know, legitimate kind of things because of decisions that we made and with town council and all that, I could understand, but you know, that was $6,000 worth of work that had to be done. That's out of all of our control. That's just one way of looking at that, but not when we go ahead and see the holiday thing go from $540 to $9,000 after the fact. Do I think that I was part of the $9,000 because of everything that transpired? You could think that somehow I contributed to it, but the original vote was 5-0. We were done. That was it. Call it a day. And then everything else happened. I just think there has to be better communication beforehand on something that is going to be changing something pretty significant in the town. Even though it's for the better, it still has to be done. And then the other, I went back and forth with Ivrea today on some other items that I had and needed clarification on, and she was, once again, super responsive and got me all those questions answered for that. I guess my other thing is when I brought up a couple months back with the political sign on that person's private property that, you know, we got a complaint from. And it's just, for me, the Constitution's free. I mean, that's it, we don't have to spend the money. But, you know, we had to spend $1,600 on a question like that was already dealt with years ago in Reading already. It's just hard to see the amount of bills that are coming in that you can just, you know, pick and choose whatever you like. I just think going forward, how she mentioned including her memos and whatnot in the packet going forward, I think is definitely a step in the right direction on things, because maybe things were brought to your attention, Mark. I wasn't privy to everything that happens on the board the entire year. I'm sure there's tons of communications you have with Ivrea that, where the rest of us don't. You already have that insight to begin with, and I don't have the back and forth of, but what happens when this happens? You know what I mean? It's the counterbalance. So I'm sure I'm missing a couple other items, but like I said, I found Ivrea super responsive. I mean, and like I said, the billing is the amount of effort and time and whatnot she puts into it is definitely pretty significant. So it's good to see.
Thanks. Carlo, did you want to speak?
Thanks, yeah. I think I was looking at this agenda item as not a way to, it was nice to hear the compliments earlier, public comment, and I have nothing to say about those. They were 100% right. I think from what I'm looking at, when Chris brought up this point a few months ago of looking at, they're not the only law firm that handle municipalities. So I think we should take a look at whether it's a bid process, I guess we have to go through, or just see if we're getting what we want to get, not knowing what else is out there, what other towns use. So Ivrea's been very helpful, very responsive, and I try to avoid those kind of calls unless they're absolutely necessary. Again, to Chris's point, as the chair and as town manager, there's there's a lot more going on than as the rest of the board, where we have a question, obviously we have the right to go direct to Ivrea, and we don't have to go through anybody, and she's there for us to protect us in the town. But I would just like to see us as a community to see what else is out there and see how competitive Meares and Harrington is compared to other law firms. This is nothing personal. It's just a way to say, okay, we have a great rate, we have a great firm, let's stick with it. If they're in the middle, or if they're at the high end, and then we take a look at it. I don't, that's the way I was looking at this. This is not a, yes, the Menorah Christmas tree thing could have been handled better, but that was mostly us, I think, more than Ivrea. Ivrea was reacting to what happened. She didn't cause the problem. So, but I just want to see us look forward and to see what else is out there. That's all.
Okay.
So I've enjoyed working with Ivrea and her colleagues. As one of the public commenters mentioned, I appreciate the fact that Ivrea brings in her colleagues because municipal law, like any specialty, has subspecialties. And I think it takes a pretty evolved and savvy lawyer to know when they need to bring in a colleague's help. And I think, frankly, it's something that a lot of lawyers are trained not to do, and it's often not done to the detriment of clients. I've seen it happen. And so I appreciate, again, that we've got, Jenny on RFPs, we've got other lawyers in the firm. The issue with the holiday symbols gave me an opportunity to either read or reread some of the decisions that Ivrea analyzed for us, and I think her analysis was sound. I also appreciate the fact that she regularly signals to us the line of legal opinions, legal questions, and policy decisions, the latter of which are ours to make. And I believe that the rollout of the holiday symbols was a policy decision, and I agree with Carlo that, most if not all of that comes down to us, and that's part of why we were elected, for better or for worse. I also think it's always good to shop around, but the impression I get of municipal law firms for our kind of community in the state isn't a vibrant marketplace with, tons of different options. There are a few I've seen in attending the MMA. There's, a handful, but I think we should be ready to, if we go down that path, get a few other options, but not a whole basket full of them. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Karen?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So I've also enjoyed working with Ivrea since 2020. I've over 2 decades on town meetings, so I've seen a lot of town councils. They have different styles, but the last 3 years has not been easy. I appreciate that that Ivrea understands the law and can communicate it clearly to the select board members, and is extremely responsive, as my colleague Carlo has already said. And I know she's extremely thorough in her research. So having a good lawyer, this is an investment that we make. Ivrea has always and consistently reminded us that she represents the town. She does have a conservative voice and looking to protect the town and giving us the best advice she can. I was just thinking back to some of the situations that we've worked on. I also attended the MMA conference recently, and one of the sessions I attended was to hear from the attorney that went before the United States Supreme Court on the Boston flag case and lost, and explained why they lost. And I was thinking to myself, well, I already know this because this is exactly what Ivrea communicated to us, so there you go. But in the last couple of years, I think about 59 Middlesex. The owner sued the town, and we were accused of housing discrimination, I think it was. That was a very complex and delicate and lengthy negotiation, and Ivrea helped us reach a very a tax-efficient solution, which is clearly a case of an attorney saving us money. That could have gone either way, and I think it worked out very well for the select board and the taxpayers of Reading, and hopefully we would never repeat it. The second item that came to mind immediately was that when, as chair, I was faced with working with you all to hire a new town manager, and Ann Landry and I took the lead on that. We, Bob, as you recall, asked to step away from the process. We were meeting with Ivrea at least weekly through that very concise but rapid time frame. I think she gave us excellent advice. Again, she was extremely responsive. We were able to be very efficient, and the process was very effective, so I thank you for that. Good counsel. Just one other note, I did speak to a past chair of the Historical Commission who wanted to speak to me about his experience with Ivrea. 186 Summer Avenue has been a very sensitive subject for the Historical Commission and the Historical District Commissions. This person is also a labor attorney and a long-time town meeting member and a past Historical Commission chair and a past CBDC chair. So he said that he has enjoyed working with Ivrea, and he feels that your work is excellent, and commented that you don't always have to agree with a good lawyer, but you want to know that you have a good lawyer, and so I just wanted to share that. So at this point, I very much appreciate the work that Ivrea does, and I won't mention, but some of the other points, you're bringing the specialists when we need them. The firm is big enough to have that. I've been very satisfied, and so I don't really feel the need to undertake a review process at this time.
Thanks, Karen. So I think I would kind of echo most of our comments. I think we've been exceptionally well served by Meares and Harrington, and with Ivrea as the lead attorney in bringing in other people when it's helpful. And I think that that's a great benefit that we get in the process. I've been working with Meares and Harrington for a number of years, starting with, I guess, finance committee kinds of activities. And what I really appreciate is getting, first of all, a clear reading of statutes, an understanding of kind of all sides. What happened, we kind of from that can figure out, okay, if you move in this direction, here are the things to think about. If you move in another direction, here are the things to think about. And I find that very helpful. And I find that I've been working with corporate attorneys for 35 plus years. And this is how it needs to work. This is what allows us as a policymaking body to move ahead. And I think that the service we've been getting is exceptional. one of the things I decided to do was to reach out to some other communities and just to chat with some fellow chair, vice chair of select boards, executive, get the right title, executive director in a community which is as similar to town managers as it is in that community. And I wanted to hear from them how they work with Meares and Harrington, and see, what if it was similar to our processes and things like that. And the words were really very interesting. I spoke with Wellesley, where they said, we are a town council demanding community.
Yeah.
And I wanted to just kind of hear what they had to say, more so than anything else. And I heard words like handles herself incredibly well with regular things and challenging things, and went through alcohol provision, special legislation, water litigation, working with Maya, which we've had some experience at on a number of occasions, on housing activities. I mentioned reading of statutes, and the words were really strong. I had one. I just scribbled a couple of notes down, but there was a question about is there an agenda somehow came out, and it was like the only agenda is for excellence for our town, which I thought was really kind of spot on. I am very comfortable working with Meares and Harrington. I think, Chris, as you brought up, the chair, town manager, vice chair sometimes are involved in things kind of pre-agenda to decide what comes to the agenda, to undertake maybe what may come up, to decide whether or not town council should appear at the meeting. A lot of those decisions, I think some of them can come up a little bit faster, and I think that's what we've talked about. I think that's probably a good outcome of things, to have a more formal opinion up front. I also think that the role that we have for town council is to give us guidance so we can make policy decisions. And what that often means is that we should be talking to town council just to make sure. And Phil and I spar on this a little bit, because Phil's like, let's save some money, and I'm like, let's make sure it's right. So I kind of push that a little bit, and probably there's a little bit more agenda money that gets spent as a result, but I think that's the right thing to do. Other chairs may have different feelings about that. Whether we spend money kind of before an issue, after an issue, again, for us, as we make policy, I think we need to understand what are the things that we need to consider before we make our decisions. And if we need more information, that's exactly what we need to do, is get more information. It's gonna cost some money. I know as I look at the town council budget, the vast majority, very vast majority, is spent on town government services and working with department heads, working on all the activities that allow the town to function. And we in Reading have a lot of stuff going on. We do. And I think it's great. It's fantastic. And we spend money to do that. And I think it's money very, very well spent. I too have talked with other law firms over time, and haven't had the comfort level with those other firms, frankly. And I'm very comfortable, continuing with Meares and Harrington. To Carlos' point, I think it's always great just to make sure that we understand, the rates. I'm not getting charged some crazy rate, even though Chris said it's okay, it's lower than he thought. That has to be part of things, obviously, too. But we've had a very long and good relationship. Meares and Harrington knows us very well, and there's a big benefit of that. And having the right experts come in, right when we need them. I have never had a time when I've had to really, wait for a callback more than just a couple hours. And that's exceptional. That's exceptional service, and that I think allows things to be quick and get it done. So this is sort of a discussion more than a review, but we're doing some reviewing as we're talking about it. I feel really good, working with Meares and Harrington, and I really appreciate Ivrea in particular as our lead attorney, carrying us forward and getting us the assistance from others. Want to offer any comment? Are you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I will say that this past year we were faced with significant challenges that we couldn't have foreseen. So and they range from if I were to look at how much we spent on town council in Trashgate, right? I mean, it is things that we never expect, right? But we've got to pursue all options. We had a letter drafted, right, to cancel the contract. We had conference calls upon conference calls. We we had a call with the community, right, about, you know, what to possibly do in conjunction. You know, when the first government auditors came, we you know, we had a discussion about what can we do. We had to calm the employees. We had a training, right, in the building. You know, certainly the job is not easy, and it's not, you know, it's not zoning, right, or it's not labor. It's all of the above, and it does require, you know, kind of hopping around a lot. I mean, I would say that I'm thankful for Aria's work this first year. I hope that this second year is a little easier, but you know, I'm being optimistic, probably. But I do know that we, and I think to echo Jackie's point, it's not just Iria, it's Donna who helps a lot on labor issues, and at times it can be, you know, really complicated issues that have big price tags attached to them if we don't do them right. So on the labor issues, on the zoning issues, you know, we certainly spend a lot of time on and dollars on that. So yeah, it is not a single faceted role. You know, it's not a real estate you know, firm that we're engaging with. It's an all hands on deck approach that we need to. I'm certainly thankful that we have Eva here.
Awesome. Any other comments, Colin?
So how do we move forward from here? It seems like three of us are okay with seeking other, you know, firms to see where we stand.
So I think tonight was set as a kind of just a discussion in terms of what's going on.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that future agendas.
Yeah, I think that might be the way to do that. I think, you know, the goal tonight, well, I don't know exactly what the goal tonight was. It was to have a discussion.
Yeah, that's fine, that's fine.
And see what's going on. I think that, you know, so we heard, you know, a lot of comfort. You know, I think to your point, it's always important just to understand rate structures and things like that. But if you were saying, hey, do you want to go out and start a search? I would say no, I would not be in favor of that. I don't think it's necessary.
Will that be up to a vote?
Yeah, but you said you thought it was a majority that, or three of us.
There's three of us that would go that route, Jackie, myself, and Chris. That's all I'm saying.
So I guess maybe what we should do is next at another agenda, we
Sure.
can bring that forward if that's a question to bring. The 321 is, fasten your seatbelt for time on that one, but we're good. Chris?
I guess if I could just follow up, I didn't plan on bringing up Middlesex Ave because obviously Ivrea wasn't the lawyer in the beginning on that. She might have been on the end. But since Karen brought it up as being as positive, I completely and unequivocally disagree with that sentiment that Middlesex Ave ended up as a win for Reading. We lost, and we shouldn't have been in that position in the first place. That's my opinion. Nobody else's. That's just how I feel. So,
Is it a legal issue or as a town issue?
Well, we got sued and lost. That isn't a win for the town or anybody.
Right, but if we're talking about town council, I'm just trying to make sure it's town council specific as you're relating to Middlesex Ave.
It's hard for me because I wasn't on the board to begin with. I'd like to think that I would have been vocal at that point with the scenario that would have transpired. Obviously, I wasn't, so it's moot. But I don't think that is a win for Reading in any shape or form.
So I can tell you from a legal point of view, my opinion, having been involved in that, is that we saved from what we would otherwise have had to spend. We could in fact have gone much further and not settled,
Mm-hmm.
and it didn't make sense. We understood the opportunity and made a decision.
It all goes back, for me, it's the same thing. Before the menorah, $540. After the fact, $9,000. I think beforehand, we wouldn't have been in the position to begin with. That's where I'm going with it. So yes, save, settle, et cetera, all that direction, sure, but I don't agree that the beginning would have went that way.
So again, from a town council point of view, those were decisions that the town made, the town and the board made. That one could argue led us into the situation and led us out of the situation. But town council's role was to give us advice on how to work from where we were and what the risks were in going one direction versus another, and then a decision had to be made, which we did. So the spending of money, the timing of money, things unfold and get more complicated, it's wise to spend more time going through it. There was, I don't remember, was it mediation? We had a series of different activities we undertook as part of it. But again, it was, here are your options, pros and cons, board make a decision. And it feels like you're not agreeing necessarily with the decision and the timing, but I think that the council was sound.
I would have to go with your assumption because I wasn't there in the beginning to begin with, but you know, it's easy for me to say now, just like anybody else. But I don't know, that's just the way that I feel.
Yeah. I mean, the high school litigation went a similar path. Some decisions were taken early on that led to bigger issues that required a lot more work and a lot more activity. And again, we navigated as best we could given where we were and finished that. Probably could have been worse. It just turned out to be difficult, and the board had to make decisions, and we did. And actually, at that point, FinCom, school committee, and select board were all involved in those discussions. But I think each situation is different.
Of course.
But I think the council has been sound. It's been an issue for us to decide. Here are the risks. What do you want to do?
You know how I am with the risk, Mark.
If only there were guarantees.
If only.
Okay, so it sounds like we'll come back and talk a little further on that. Any other? No? All right, let's roll to VASC. VASC recommendations. Vote on VASC recommendations to appoint volunteers. Ivrea and Donna, thank you for coming.
Nice to see you, everybody. Good night.
Thanks for working with us.
Good night.
VASC.
Jackie, you want to go, or me, or we already said how lovey-dovey everyone was incredible.
We
and-
did, Chris, yes. So, as we mentioned, Chris and I met 3 times since the last select board meeting to interview applicants for various boards and committees. And I believe we have, check my math. 7, lucky number 7, thank you, Chris, recommendations. They are as follows. First, Liz Rogers has applied for a position on the Cultural Council. Second, William McCants. And I should mention Liz Rogers, great background of volunteerism throughout her children's school career with some of the performing arts, and is looking now that she's her kids are out of school, out of Reading schools, to kind of re-involve. Second, William McCants for Conservation Commission. He is an attorney, and he's the former head of the Harvard Office of Dispute Resolution, dispute resolution, always a good life skill, and talked about the role of education and collaboration on that commission. Chris Cridler applied for a position on the Zoning Board of Appeals. He is currently serving on the RCTV board. He actually heard about this position the old-fashioned way by just coming to town hall and asking about open positions. He's also an attorney, would like to be a full member of the ZBA. Tony Rodolakis, number 4, is currently on the Conservation Commission as an associate member and would like to be a full member. He has experience with the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and is an environmental consultant in his professional career and works on vernal pools. And then this week, or last week and this week, Chris and I met with Mark Wetzel. He is interested in a spot on the CPDC. He's a professional engineer, has experience with water and sewer and waste. He expressed interest in kind of the infrastructure side of planning and development. Today, we met with Will Hughes, a current associate member of the Town Forest Committee, wants to be a full member, use the town forest, sounds like for many decades, including when he was a Boy Scout, I think, or an Eagle Scout. And then last, we met Salvatore Clementi, who expressed interest and applied for the Animal Control Appeals Committee, which currently meets on an as-needed basis. Salvatore is has a background in law enforcement and is a court officer, expressed his love for animals and understands that this board meets on an as-needed basis, according to the charter, to review accusations or claims of a vicious dog under the general bylaws. So we recommend these 7 appointments to the various boards and committees in town.
Chris, anything to add?
Yeah, let me just get the name. Was it Tom, Timothy? Who did we meet earlier?
Thomas.
Thomas, yes. So yeah, to Jackie's point with all of them, it just seems as if they, we're just meant to fill the roles in these certain positions. A majority of them are all lawyers or, have been doing this kind of stuff for 40, 50 years. It's a good mix of how they found out about it, word of mouth, friends, town hall, moving here like Tom is doing with his wife. And he was applying to be on CPDC, Zoning Board of Appeals and Conservation?
Permanent
building.
Yeah.
Yes. So that one's up in the air. I joked with Jackie that we have a bench now on the VAST committee for people to start filling in. So we interviewed him and then we can make some recommendations in April when he moves here fully. I just took a little care with, I don't want to say that we should put him on CPDC when an actual resident could be here with those qualifications that, you know what I mean? Like this, he's super qualified in Avon where he was living and all that stuff. But, it's good to see that we have, a month or two just to see if there's any other applicants. But he was open to being on any one of those 3 committees. And like I said, his wife might join the rec committee or something else. They don't play pickleball, but, I said maybe they will. But no, just, it's very good seeing that we have an uptick here, one person left the Animal Controls Appeals Committee yesterday, so now we lose one there. But, having 7 names now with super qualified people is great. We're gonna need another 25, 26 after this. With FinCom obviously needing one there as well. So, no, I'm just very happy with the outpouring of support. Maybe it was the Chronicle article, maybe it was happenstance. Nobody mentioned the Chronicle specifically, but it's better that we have 7 people than 0. Because if we were in the 0 position, forget about it. We're going to go over that obviously later, what we can do to kind of bump that up to be, like 5 people just missing on boards and committees. But very happy with all the people that we interviewed and worked around everyone's schedule. So.
Fabulous. You have a motion for us.
I do. Move to appoint Liz Rogers to, you want me to read everyone at once, right?
We probably should, because there are 2 more than are in the packet, so.
Yep. So move to appoint Liz Rogers to a full position on the Cultural Council with a term expiring June 30th, 2026. William McCants to a full position on the Conservation Commission with the term expiring June 30th, 2025. Chris Cridler to a full position on the Zoning Board of Appeals with the term expiring June 30th, 2024. Tony Roladakis to an associate position on the Conservation Commission with the term expiring June 30th, 2024. He requested the associate position instead of the full one. Mark Wetzel to a full position on the CPDC with a term ending June 30th, 2024. William Hughes to a full position on the Town Forest Committee with a term ending June 30th, 2024. And Salvatore Clementi to an associate position on the Animals Control Appeals Committee with a term ending June 30th, 2024.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Karen. Any further discussion? Oh,
Are we, procedurally, are we okay with the last two names? Since they weren't,
We were told yes.
yeah, I think so. The item, the VASC recommendations was in the packet, so I think we're okay for that reason.
okay, just wanna make sure, 'cause-
Yeah, so we're not adding an agenda item. It's just kind of an update
Right.
to the information.
Okay,
And yeah, the VASC packet was, with those names that of the folks that we interviewed today, was distributed with 2 business days of
okay.
The packet
notice.
isn't covered by open meeting, it doesn't matter.
Oh, we're good.
All right,
Any further discussion? None appearing. All right, so we're ready to take a vote in total, or do we need to break any names off?
I'm good with everyone.
I'm good.
Okay, so the motion on the table is for the 7 names. All those in favor? Opposed? 5-0. Thank you. Make a request before we talk about water and sewer rates, if we could take a quick break.
Yeah.
And so we'll take a recess for 5 minutes.
We learned today that Avon
right, board is back in session. Preview of fiscal '24 water and sewer rates, please, Fidel.
All right, thank you. Ms. Caitlin, when you get a chance?
She's ahead of you.
Yep, thank you, she always is. This is on page 51 of the packet, and as you all know, we have been talking about the possibility of tiered rates. I want to start with just a snapshot of the budgets, because I do think it's important to kind of get a sense of what is up to Reading, right? I mean, what is up to us. As you can see in water, the vast majority of the budget is in things that we have no control on, like the MWR assessment or debt, which is something that you know we'll carry, and it will take some time to change. In FY24, we do have a 2% reduction compared to FY23 in water, and that is because the capital that is budgeted this year is not as much as it was budgeted last year, even though last year capital was paid from ARPA, and this year it will also be paid from ARPA. Next slide, please. Next slide, Caleb. The next chart shows the sewer enterprise. This is 2.5%. Now the budget was developed before the MWRA released their projections, their initial projections for FY24 assessments. We built the budgets assuming a 3% increase, right, in assessments. As the board received, we did get good news that on the sewer side, it's actually going to be a negative assessment, and on the water side is just a slight increase. So overall, the amount that is going to be regenerated is going to be more, but it was too late to change the budget, and furthermore, it is not final. The MWRA board still has to vote on it, but just to say that those were good news. So next slide, please, Caitlin. So just a very high level overview. The idea was to create tiers, and I say tiers because it's really up to the board as to how many tiers to have. I'll start there. And again, the idea would be that the lowest tiers captures people living at home, seniors, and small users. The middle tier captures average residential users, and the higher tiers captures large residential users and large commercial accounts. And just as a progress, we went to town meeting and received funding to hire a consultant, and we have been working with this consultant for the last 8 months in order to get to where we are today. And I just wanted to give the board a preview, and unfortunately, the consultant I have asked to come to the March 21st meeting, which is going to be an exciting presentation, I'm sure, about water rates from a consultant. Next slide, please. However, ahead of that presentation, I just wanted to give the board a preview. I do recognize that this is a big shift from what we do today, and I wanted to give the board as much time as possible to digest this, to make proposals, and really just have as much information as possible ahead of the vote that we hope to take after town meeting. So what our FY 2023 rates is basically a flat rate for water, flat rate for sewer, and the rate that is at the top there is shown. What we are looking at, what we are looking to propose, is essentially a 5-rate tiered system. This could go down to 3, or 4, but this is what I'd like to present to the board, as well as the rates. So if you see in orange, essentially it creates tiered rates. So on tier 1 would go from usage of 0 to 500 cubic feet and that is per quarter. The rate would be $10.10. If you compare that with the FY23 rate, this tier would get an 11% decrease. On tier 2, again, it goes from 501 to 1,000, and the rate that we're proposing is 10.8. This tier would get a negative 5%. Tier 3, the middle rate would go from 1,000 to 2,500, and the rate would be 11.7. And this this would show a 3% increase. Tier 4 would go from 2,500 to 5,000, which would be on the opposite side of that trend, showing a 14% increase. And then Tier 5, which is 5,000 and above, showing a 14% increase. On the sewer side, basically same tier format, just different spread. We do have a much better reserves in sewer, so we are able to kind of dial that back a little bit more, if you will. And on this slide, just the last thing that I'll point out is that there is a statute, chapter 165, section 2B, that basically says that MWA communities shall have a base rate that is increased in blocks. It doesn't mean that all communities are following this, but it is something that we should keep in mind. Next slide, please. I just wanted to give a preview on who falls on each tier, right? And this is basically a breakdown by tier based on usage of who would fall on these tiers. And I just took a breakdown of residential and commercials. So as you see, 84.3% of residential accounts would be billed under Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. 52.1% of commercial accounts would be billed under Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. And like income tax, you're billed for the usage in that bracket, right? So for all usage, all accounts, for the respective usage in the range of Tier 1, they are billed at the Tier 1 rate, and then it progresses on. And the numbers that I'm presenting show a 3% increase in water revenue and 0% increase in sewer revenue. This is based on a full year's worth of billing. Historically, if you recall, we tiers rates are applied in September, so we kind of miss a quarter. But I argue that we make up that quarter the following year. So we're 1 quarter behind. Based on past practice. Next slide, please. This is a very high level projection of what would be what's the effect, right? So a minimal user, which is that first tier, 500, would see a reduction in water, and we'll see a reduction in sewer. The average residential user in Reading, we've calculated is typically 1,500 cubic feet per quarter, and they would see a reduction as well. The next average residential user is what is used basically by DEP to calculate what a projection for a standard home use would be. It does mean that large residential users would see an increase. So as you can see there, a large residential user using 4,500 worth of water would see an increase in water and would see an increase in sewer, as well as the large commercial user and the very large commercial user. So these are projections based on the rates that I showed above. And then next slide, please. Should the board consider these recommendations, this is basically a combined, right? So there's a water rate, a sewer rate, and then the combined rate would be for each tier, and again just kind of looping it back to that average residential user. They would see a reduction in both in water and sewer. And that is it.
Board members, questions? Chris?
Thanks, Mark, and thanks, Fidel. Is this the same graphic that you, I assume, showed up that when you met with all of us kind of scenario? Because it looks like the numbers are different.
So I played with the rates a little bit. And it's been I think I've actually been shrinking them. I've been shrinking them compared to when we started. So originally the consultant proposed something that was stretched out, right? A lot more differences between the tiers, and we've been kind of shrinking these down. But again, these are these are numbers that can be changed, and if if the board would like to see any specific numbers, I can certainly come back to the board with the same presentation, just different figures.
Yeah, because for me, obviously, if you use more water, you should spend more money. But when I see 12 and 12 on the last lines of that is way more than I would expect the increase on at least the number 4 person. I understand it's being distributed to be able to hit the -10, but the way that I would look at that, I don't know what you have to do with the numbers, but I would see -10 and then +10 on the 5, and then converge everything into the middle. You know what I mean? That, at least that's how it is for me. But 12 and 12, I understand you using more, but there's a lot of people that fall into those 2 buckets, if you will. And then, are we able to see about what was mentioned in public comment about the second water meter?
Absolutely. So that is a policy decision. I think is not a technical decision. The second meters, right? And they're known as irrigation meters. They're known as basically it is for water that in theory doesn't go back on the drain, right? So it's not a toilet. It's watering a lawn. It is up to us to determine whether we do it or not. There's some technicalities involved, right? A home would need to ensure that the piping, right, is completely separated, completely segregated. That might require a plumber, right? They would certainly require a plumbing permit for our plumbing inspector to come in and inspect, right? That everything is fine. If that's something the board would like to do, that is certainly something that I would like to that is possible. My always unknown with that is creating a hole, right? So we're like we're patching the boat, if you will. So I would love to start small, whether it's a pilot program or whether it's whether it's a maximum allowed per year kind of thing, first come first serve kind of thing. It's not something that people would be able to do tomorrow if this was the case. Some plumbing might need to be made. Some houses might not be able to be retrofitted, right? So it is absolutely something we can look into.
Because I like the idea of having obviously a pilot and rolling it out slower, because this way here, if you did it 50 or 100 people, you could actually monitor, be like, okay, like this dude clearly had it inspected one way and then did something other, because you'd be able to, it's so small of a sample, you could find that kind of abnormality. But I think that, if we're changing this because people are using more water, so they're spending more money, it's only fair at the same time that if I'm watering my grass, which is increasing the neighborhood value because everything looks beautiful and everything's great, I shouldn't be spending money for water that's not going down the sewer. And it seems like this would be the perfect time for us to kind of correct that. I know it's always been mentioned about the second meter thing, and I think some people still do have a second meter that are grandfathered in from like 20 years ago. But I mean, if we're going to do it, it would be now as opposed to some other time in the future. But yes, roll it out slow makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, because what's hard to project is how much revenue that's going to take away, right? So which we're projecting next year's revenue, right? So it's hard to project it. But I think, you know, if we do it slowly and ultimately it's a pie, as you saw in the beginning, right? That pie is getting split among the users, and if, you know, if we're reducing the sewer users, it might mean that the pie might have to be spread a little more, which is okay over time. So especially in the sewer enterprise fund, where retained earnings is not a concern right now, today.
So a couple of thoughts on that. I applaud that this is encouraging conservation, because unfortunately, as we conserve, because we're buying a fixed amount of water, you don't get rewarded for your conservation at the end of the day. So I like the way that it's structured that way, and I think it supports it. On the kind of the tiering, you know, maybe there's some tweaking, but, you know, from a residential point of view, there are only 15.7% of the people in tiers 4 and 5. So it's a relatively small percentage of residential. Obviously, for commercial, it's much larger, but in residential, it's small. So I'm not troubled that, you know, it's kind of the 12 and 12. Might even think about, you know, could tier 5 be higher? Except I think then we get into some issues with commercial. So I think I think what you probably shared with us, depending on when everybody saw it, I think this is doing a better job on that, on kind of spreading that out, encouraging the conservation. By that same note, in terms of outdoor irrigation and things like that, that's not conservation. That's kind of the opposite direction of conservation. And if we do, you said it might impact other rates. There's no might about it. It has to. It will impact other people's rates. And I don't think that's a good trade-off. I think that it's wonderful to you know, fill your pool. I do it sometimes. It's wonderful to water your grass, but that's a privilege. And I think it's a privilege. It should be that way. I would be very concerned about, you know, even having a minimal impact on raising everybody's rate to support that. And I think that's what it comes down to. So I think this structure looks pretty good. Because the actual rates came in a little bit better from MWRA, so that's wonderful, right? So that's better than the budget. Yeah, so and good, and, you know, will it last forever? No. But we got a 1-year hit in our favor. So I like the idea of kind of implementing this shift now, where the impact isn't going to be, you know, that much. I think most residences, the vast majority of residences are going to save, which is great. Businesses will be, the large commercial locations will be paying more. I'm assuming that most of the ones that are in tier 5 are kind of, you know, there's Walkersbrook and some other kind of bigger clients that are the ones that are going to be driving that. So I think this is, you know, maybe there's a little bit more tweaking, but generally it's right. I think 5 tiers is probably right. You know, 4 and 5 are equal. I assume that you're doing that because there may be reasons to change them in time, and having them separated makes that easier. But I mean, as of right now, it's the same rate, you know, either way.
Yeah, I mean,
Is that kind of why there's the 5th?
It was to have this conversation. I mean, if the board would like to see, you know, kind of increasing that, right, or not increasing that, separating it, right, and maybe having 5 be at 12% and then 4, you know, at 10, right? I mean, or another number. I think these are the right tiers in terms of like the when somebody jumps over.
Yeah, and it's on the 5-tier structure, obviously, seems to make sense. Okay, sorry, I jumped in. Other comments, other feedback, Kyle?
No, I'm good. You know, let's save the time for when it's appropriate, but it is a great chart, a lot of information, but we can't just think of this year, or 24, we have to think, you know, 5-10 years ahead. So I think there's gonna be a lot of moving around of numbers. I don't know how much, but you know, I'll save that for later. But it's a good start. It's when I had my meeting with Fidel, we did a lot of different scenarios, and, you know, did some deep dives. And I think we'll have the discussion when it's time. But right now, it's not the time. But it's a good start. And I'm just worried about the future years, not just 24. What does 2030 look like? you know, if we continue on this path. What we're doing, you said that 15.7 is not a lot. Yes, it's not, but it's not 5% of the, it's a good, you know, it's a decent number. It's not 5% of our residential users. It's 15%, and that could grow over time. So again, not the time and place, but I like where this is. I like this idea, the concept of the tiered system, but I think it needs a lot of tweaking.
Karen, Jackie, any comments?
Just a question on next steps. So the consultant will present on the 21st, and are we voting also at the next meeting?
No,
It's not on there, right? It doesn't vote, no.
Okay. But we are voting, you had said like later in the spring? Is it?
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, historically, it's all over the place, but basically it's May, April, March, April, or May. And last year we did it in May. The rates this rate increase won't be in place until September of 23.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just want to thank you, Fidel. I've been hearing for years, residents upset about our high water and sewer rates, the highest in the MWRA program or near the top. And I've been hearing for many years that the only option was to think about tiered rates. So I appreciate you taking the time and energy to go through this and put it in place and presenting to me, and I'm sure the other select board members, how so many other communities, most other communities have made this move, and it will benefit the residents. And so we've also, as a select board and prior select boards for many, many years with the previous town manager, Chris is correct, there are a few folks that still have second meters, and they were grandfathered from years and years ago. And consistently, select boards and town managers have, to build on what Fidel was alluding to and what Mark said, have said it needs to be about conservation, and it is a privilege. You know, it could be helpful where you've only been on the board for a short time. It could be helpful to maybe Caitlin or somebody could track down prior discussions. You could see sort of what went into it, why it's consistently voted down.
One thing that would be great, we know that the MWRA assessment is killing us.
Yeah.
And I know you've already prodded and poked and done many other things. However, that's the problem. So I wonder if we can start thinking about some alternatives instead of just running straight into the wall to figure out how to go around it a little bit. See if there's another approach to it. Because that's the killer. That's what's absolutely destroying our rates. And versus other communities.
Yeah, thank you. And I've asked, and I'll ask again when we have time, is to try to buy some of this debt down, if it's at all possible, because you're right, it's killing us. You know, Bob mentioned to us more than once in the previous boards that timing is everything, and we got in at the very worst time.
Yep.
And it's hurting us, and it's hurting the residents a lot. So, you know, I don't know if that's even possible. I mentioned it probably last year, and I'll mention it again. And I don't know what can be done, but they gotta try to help us, because I don't think it's fair just because of bad timing. We're getting taken over the coals.
And does our reserve system with our water tanks and things, in an absolute emergency in another community, are we being helpful to them just with our extra capacity?
No, the water tank is for a pressure benefit, pressure. So it's not supply, it's pressure for us.
Right, but in a catastrophe scenario, I'm sure we'd trade pressure for water. I wonder, it feels like we're providing benefits to the system.
Sure.
That we don't get credit for. And I wonder, I know, I mean, you and I have talked about this, and I know you've beaten your head against the wall with the head of the MWRA.
We have a second water tower too.
Yeah.
I mean, is there a role for, you know, us bringing some pressure on to MWRA at the state level?
I think everywhere, yes. Up to the
Because
board.
isn't it is it a quasi-state agency or a regional agency?
Yes. Chris, sorry.
Thanks, Mark. To follow up on Karen's point about the water rates and that I should talk to Caitlin, et cetera. Just for a little background, I have an unreleased water rate video that I did back in the day that specifically dealt with adding a second meter. I've done my research quite in depth on what has transpired before, and that is why up until today, none of it made sense where you would go ahead with the second water meter, because then everyone would get screwed. Everyone has to pay the money. I fully understand that. We are now going to tiered water rates, which is if you use more water, you pay more money, which makes sense. What does not make sense before, with prior select boards and current select board, is that if you're not using the water going into the sewer because you're watering your lawn, pool, etc., that does not make sense to me. It wouldn't make sense to me 10 years ago. It won't make sense to me 10 years from now. That you're paying for something that you are not actually getting or using. That doesn't make sense. And we're going to go ahead and go to tiered rates to correct one aspect of things and then not correct the other aspect, that because I have sprinklers, I'm getting charged for water going to the sewer that is not actually happening. How is that fair or equitable in any scenario? It's not. It just isn't. You can't give the people that are taking the break in the beginning by conserving water, because that makes sense, and then be like, your water's going into your lawn, not into the sewer, you're still paying for it though. That doesn't make sense to me. So if anything, now would be the time to go ahead and change it. That's why in the prior things, it would never fly. Nobody would ever get away with doing it. Now, different story. Or perhaps I'm the outlier, and that's fine with me. But unless there's a clear and concise argument otherwise, that's how I am.
Any other thoughts on this?
I will say that in the community that I worked for before, not a lot of lawns and not a lot of pools. I'll grant you that. But a second meter was a tool. Was definitely a tool. And there's other mechanisms that we can implement, to control it. Maybe it's a meter fee. Maybe it's maybe it doesn't go to zero, right? I mean, maybe it's a reduction. I mean, there are certainly other things, but a lot of communities do offer a second meter, and I think as long as it's rolled out slowly, it doesn't create a shock to the system. I think it's something that if the board is okay with it, I'll ask for the consultant to explore to see what has been done with regards to second meter rollouts, who has second meters, and how can we incorporate it. What's the magic number? Is it 2 meters a year, or is it 10 meters a year? Because it is hard to project.
It might not be financially worth it for somebody to do it, because all we're changing in this scenario, we're not changing the water rate, it's the sewer rate on most likely the further tiered people. Just for everyone's input, I'm number 3 regardless, so that's what, unless Fidel changed it here, when he looked up my address, I'm in the middle, number 3. Me, my wife, 2 kids, sprinklers, etc., I'm number 3. So I'm not advocating for myself. It's the people on the further end that have the pools or maybe decide to actually use their sprinklers all the time or whatever scenario. It's more, it might not make financial sense for them to go and spend $1,000 on getting all their plumbing done and having inspections and all that, because it might take them 5 years to get their money back, and then they're not going to do it. But at least we offered it, and you make your own decision if you want to do it or not. And if you want to continue down and just pay what it is, then that's on you. So I don't see the disadvantage of, if we're talking rolling it out in 50 people, the water rate's going to change by a penny or 2 cents on the sewer rate before we start with water. It's going to be negligible. But at least we offer it at the time when we're correcting, conservation. And people are gonna try to gauge to get into those other numbers to begin at, the lower tiers. That's what this is gonna do. It's gonna drive the conservation, but to penalize people for something they're not using, should end now, but that's just me.
All right, let's go move on to the warrant. Reclose the warrant.
Revisit. So the warrant is in the packet. Caitlin, if you could pull up page 64 of the packet. So we received two citizen petitions from Mr. Bruce McKenzie, and I know he is on the Zoom. It's Article 24 and Article 25. I did check with Laura Gem, our town clerk, and our town council that the citizen petition met the deadline, and the signatures obtained were certified, and essentially it's a citizen petition. There is no option but to include them in the warrant. So it is Article 24 and Article 25. In the warrant. So it essentially what we're asking the board to do is to do one vote, three moves in one vote, which is to reopen the warrant, I believe, close the warrant and then vote to close the warrant.
So the reality here is that even if there were technical problems with them as written,
Correct.
such as not allocating funds to purchase land, that's kind of irrelevant to the warrant. It'll be relevant to town meeting, but it's not relevant to the warrant.
Yeah, that's something that I asked town council, can they be edited? Can we make, can we discuss? And essentially they can, because when the citizens were signing their names onto this petition, it was that what was in that petition. So changing that petition, changing anything in that language would essentially change the petition itself, and the signees wouldn't we can't assume that they would authorize or be on board with that, those changes.
So maybe what we could do is encourage the petitioners between now and town meeting to see what imperfections there are, and perhaps they can amend this armed with that information. Not now, but at town meeting. Karen?
Thank you. I was just gonna ask, does this take the normal process? The next step would be to go to finance committee and they would issue a recommendation?
I don't think that, because there's no financial components, and so we had, if you recall, we had a citizen petition in November from Mary Parr to show sidewalks in the downtown. I don't think we voted on them or like reviewed them, and essentially they are what they are.
So,
I
sorry,
don't
did I misread this? I thought it was asking for $25,000.
Article 25 does. Yes.
Oh, I'm on the wrong one. Okay, I'm sorry. So so my question is, if the article that asks for monies, will it be going to finance committee for discussion?
So as I read Article 25, I think it's just pointing out that annually we allocate $25,000 for sidewalks. It is not, as I read this,
Okay,
it is pointing out that we annually allocate money for sidewalk, and as I read it, it is to I assume that the argument has been made that to use the money normally allocated to do this.
Yes, I see what you're saying. I see that. I got stuck on town shall acquire.
Yeah, I don't think there's money for that. Okay, any other comments? Jake?
Yeah, just a comment. Chris and I met with some of these neighbors last summer, and I mean, I agree. I took a look at the bylaws, and I agree that it seems like it's our responsibility to include this, but I think one of the things that came up when we met was that at least a portion of this is a private road.
Okay, Chris?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. To piggyback off what Jackie said, when we were there, it's definitely a unsafe area So whatever we can do to improve upon that, I agree with. At the same time, it is a private way, and I think we're talking about taking some people's land that may be disagreeing with us actually doing that. So it's a give and take whether or not, how we feel about that. I haven't really hammered it out, but when we were over there, it definitely is a safety concern. So I understand that this might not be taking the right approach, but, I'd like to see something done though.
To that extent, could PTTTF take a look at this also before a town meeting, and perhaps they have some thoughts either toward this or a different solution? Sorry, Carlos, are you?
No. Do you wanna, you good?
I mean, I'll say that we took a look at this that last summer, and the because it is a private way, there's not much that we can do. It's not a town-owned way. The town can be conveyed to the town, right? That is certainly one option that we shared with the residents that we met there, and that would be through a different process that ultimately would be up to the select board for a vote to as road commissioners. We explained that process and yeah.
Kyle?
I guess on 25 more than 24, when it's a citizen's petition, so when this gets presented at town meeting, is the petitioner responsible for visuals, or would we have to do that?
So the citizen is responsible for everything. The citizen is responsible for presentation, for visuals, for legal advice, for my understanding, and I've only had one from November, is that, citizen's petition, basically we would sit back and it's up to the petitioner.
All right, so it's gonna be their job, whoever it is, at any given time, to present this well, so it can go forward.
That's correct.
Okay.
Chris?
Thanks, Mark. And just to provide some input, when I lived on Causeway Road, that was a private road, the entire one where RMLD was. And because we had a flooding issue at the bottom dip when it would rain, you couldn't drive through it. So we had to go ahead and go through, the only time I came to the select board back then, like a decade ago, because it had to get brought up that, we had to go ahead and have curbing and pay for it and abatements and 20 years and all these loan things and all that kind of stuff. So I feel for them, but I went through it myself. I had to pay the money, and then when I sold the house, I had to lose that portion to the people that were buying it.
So if I heard you correctly, excuse me, there've been discussions with the folks that own the private road already. It hasn't proved fruitful yet.
I think it hasn't proved fruitful because there's members in that road that are not interested in it.
Got it.
Because you need like 80%, like we had one person that didn't want to pay anything at all, and whoever was on the select board then said to him, and I'll never forget, well, you better get in line with everyone else because you're paying. And I'm like, okay. So, I don't know. Maybe I'll find out who it was, It's like 10 years ago.
What would be the process for the citizen petitioner to get some town resources to help them kind of figure this out? Is there a way for that to happen?
That the citizen could reach out to me, certainly.
Are you listening, Bruce?
Yep.
Yeah, because I think it sounds like there's a lot of support, there's a safety problem, but it's not an easy issue.
Number 24, that's right, I agree.
Yeah.
On 25, it's a much bigger issue.
Yeah. Yep. But maybe a little bit of guidance would help rather than town meeting trying to figure it out on the fly.
I think so.
Okay.
I feel for the residents on this road. It's an unsafe situation, and I was out there meeting with these residents when the new development was approved and started going in. And it was just it was dismaying to me, when my road was developed, I didn't live here. It went into a new cul-de-sac and they widened the feeder road and put in sidewalks and they re-engineered it. So I don't know what happened between 1994 and 2021 that we could approve a new subdivision that would be accessed via a very narrow road and no sidewalks, and it's okay in 2021. So that's a difference.
Anything else, Jay?
Yeah, I mean, just as a, relatively new member of the board, it is surprising, it's been continually surprising to me how many streets in the town are private. It's more than I would have expected before I started getting more involved. And I know there's no easy answer to it. I know that there's a reason for it historically, but I do think it creates issues, whether it's safety or even just, upkeep. And we've heard from others, even in my 10 months here, on private roads who are, complaining about or unsatisfied with conditions, so.
Yeah.
Lincoln Street.
And we've had the publicizing, that word, whatever, turning them into public. And that's quite the process, too. But it feels like it's, for an individual, this is pretty difficult hurdle to even understand. Maybe there's a way to give it more thought as a community.
It took us years, and then they found PCB in the dirt and all this other stuff, forget about it.
Yeah, there's nothing easy here, but safety is still a problem.
Of course,
So we
no,
gotta-
it is an issue for the kids over there, 100%.
Okay, so we've agreed that they stand as they are, so do we have a motion?
Move to reopen the 2023 annual town meeting warrant.
So just a quick question procedurally, we have to reopen it. Once it's reopened, if we approve that, then we close it with these two new articles added.
I believe that's right.
So two separate motions, two total?
Three motions.
Was it?
Yeah, I
Open,
have,
add, close. Okay,
That's it. Insert, open, reopen, insert, close. That's right.
reopen, insert, and close.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, so,
as Michael
you can read
Scott would say.
all three, if you like.
okay, I apologize. Can I ask you to reread the first
I
one?
will reopen the 2023 annual town meeting warrant.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Karen. Any discussion? None appearing. All those in favor? Opposed? We're 5-0. The warrant is now open. Next motion, please.
Motion to insert 2 citizen petition articles submitted pursuant to section 2-1-7 of the town's general bylaws into the 2023 annual town meeting warrant.
Second.
Thanks, Carlo. Any discussion? No. All those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? We are 5-0, so we've inserted. Third motion, please.
Move to close the 2023 annual town meeting warrant, now consisting of 25 articles.
Second.
Thanks, Carlo. Any discussion? Not appearing. Let's take a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? We are 5-0. The warrant is closed again. All right.
And there's a warrant there that obviously has to be re-signed, but we got time for that.
Okay. Discussion and vote on town manager goals.
All right, so we got, we're gonna see a little presentation here. What I did is I took some the feedback from the board and basically made 4 buckets. The buckets as I see them is execution, which is basically seeing things that we have started through, momentum, which is keeping up the pace, keeping up the good activities that we have started, vision, which is continuing to push new things, and communication, which I heard was an important one from the select board. So I'll start with that one first. Next slide, please. So on communication, certainly read you loud and clear on expanding communication with residents and businesses. This is social media, new website, newsletter. We have started the work on developing a construction map or a construction tracker. I shared some technical language with Select Board Member Chris Haley on what it is. What we envision is essentially a map that resembles either GIS or Google Maps and is on our website, and residents or anybody can go onto the website to see what's happening. Of course, you know, the struggle there is going to be how quickly do we implement it, who does it, and then how often it's updated, right? We don't have a construction tracker person on staff, so we'll have to assign somebody to it. Most likely it will be someone in DPW, but I was going to make a funny joke and assign it to Matt, but I won't do that. And then just on two things that are important to me to continue with regards to communication is communicating and supporting staff. We started doing a kind of a round robin, and it's something that Tom Malachowski actually has started doing, and I'm copying his great idea, which is he spent a day in each school and essentially listens to anybody that wants to go talk to him. So the whether it's teachers, whether it's parents, students, and my first one is going to be next Thursday at the library, where it's me, a coffee hour just with library staff, and I'm going to hop around. I think the next one after that is going to be DPW, based on the meeting tonight. And one thing that I'm really passionate about is responsiveness and accountability. Next slide, please. I think the next bucket is execution, right? Which essentially just seeing things through that we have started. One is one that is important, and we're going to keep chasing, which is green communities, MBTA compliance. I share with the board that we received interim compliance this week, but we need to make if we want to maintain MBTA compliance. MBTA communities compliance, we need to make zoning changes by December 31st, 2024, but it is definitely our goal to do it well before then, in order to allow any snafus. Obviously, the Auburn Water street tank is a big one, and one big priority of mine is to get Verizon wireless onto that tank. That's something that we might need to drag Verizon up there, but we'll definitely keep pushing for that. I shared today about phase 1 for Birch Meadow, seeing that through. And one big one that we keep talking about is Malia Sums Morgan stormwater. Obviously, we got close to $4 million in grants. Those grants have timelines that we need to expend by, and the fun work starts now. With regards to that project, momentum is the next bucket. Next slide, please, Caleb. And one big one is going to be the Killam School. I think this next phase is going to get real technical in terms of engaging the Killam School Building Committee, engaging the OPM, and engaging what we're going to get built, and it is going to be just seeing this through. Another big one is continuing the progress on our Reading Center for Active Living. I'll change that language. Continuing our public engagement process for Oakland Road and Simons Way. On Simons Way, I think that committee has hit the ground running. We did a survey that has over 1,000 responses, and we have had 3 meetings in a short time, and I think that project is up and running real well. For Oakland Road, I know next meeting we're going to have an agenda item to talk about the Affordable Housing Trust Fund and getting that up and running. And then just last year, I think we had a host of good community events that people that our residents got excited about. We don't want to lose the momentum on that. We want to do them, and in fact, we want to do more. And Ben Karras is going to be a big collaborator in that. We really want to focus on getting some action at Station 1. We've had some meetings with Greg Phipps and RMLD. We're gonna have a joint meeting again with the Board of Commissioners, and just to keep that going. We received grant funding to do a net zero plan. That is again, just another one to keep chasing. And then next slide, please, Kaylin. With regards to vision, of course, we read loud and clear, retention and developing talent in town, providing training and development opportunities, increasing our public health infrastructure, continuing to pursue state and federal grants, particularly the big ones, and this one is from CPAC in particular, where they said we can't let another 10 years pass by for Birch Meadow. So putting our head down on that one too. And seeing phase two sooner rather than later. And I think that's all I got from the meeting.
Comments? Chris?
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, so Fidel did share with me the construction tracker that Chelsea uses, and it's definitely pretty amazing. It seems as if it hopefully would, maybe I'm exaggerating, seems like it would take a minute or two for each kind of update that has to get done. But just seeing the way that the map is laid out and people can see the constructions and detours, I still have no idea what's going on Haven Street. I thought we were done, and now they're digging up the ground again. So it's frustrating for me to go to work. It's frustrating for the businesses that are over there, wondering, am I going to have people here today? So seeing the work done on this, theirs goes into lead pipe replacements and all these other permits, and we could start basic and just be what roads are closed, at minimum kind of thing. And I don't know if I would bring it up now, and because it wasn't on a goal thing, but I saw something that Burlington, I think, was doing where they were replacing their information board that they had with a new LED one. I understand there's probably some LED ban or something like that we have in Reading, gigantic, but something.
You mean outside?
Yes. No, not yes. So outside. So
Tickler.
Yeah, not a ticker. We want.
Billboard.
I was thinking that the garden club thing that is out there is in rough shape, and if we could just redo it with solar and have it be LED, then no one has to pay for the stuff anymore. You can update it from your office and call it a day.
Wakefield has that link.
Yeah. So something like that where you could advertise so many things on there, because now you're not having to worry about someone going out there and putting the thing, and it could just be all automatic. So it's only because it's in rough shape out there. I know the garden club did it, and I don't want to see it just go away kind of thing, but I think that would improve upon the communication. And I don't know how much it would be, but just something to look into and see if it's feasible.
Other comments? Okay.
Yeah, I think these are great, and I think these build on what Fidel's done in his first year. Just a couple of comments on communication. I think the construction tracker sounds really informative. I have two thoughts about it. First, it should probably also include, even if it's just at a very basic level, proposed construction. And I understand that, at the very infancy of a proposal, maybe we don't include it, but once we make the public aware of discussion, so I think about stuff like Simon's Way, and that maybe there's a way to link that to SWEC or to the survey. Or for Oakland Road, there's a way to link that to the YouTube of the forum that we held last summer. And I think, too, that those kinds of tools are only effective when people use them. And so I think Fidel and his staff have done a good job at expanding the channels through which they communicate, a lot more use of social media in particular, and updates to some of the things like our digital sign in the hallway. But I think once that tool is up and running, even if it's just at a first phase, let's make sure we share it through those channels that you've worked hard to create. And then the other question I had on the vision, Could you please just give a little more detail on what you have in mind in terms of increasing public health infrastructure? And the reason I ask is because from the budget presentations of the Public Health Department, it looked like it was a slight reduction because of, you know, the COVID era nurse, but kind of what do you have in mind there?
Yeah, this is a response to that comment. I think I personally, in my time here, and of course I don't have the benefit of before, but in my time here, if I compare what our public health department is doing compared to what I'm seeing around, I mean, they are doing kind of really basic proactive public health. They had a ton of work on Heart Health Month. Right now, it's Liver Health Month. We had a van come to town hall and do eye exams for employees. Right. I mean, they held they're traveling around to departments and doing monthly blood pressure clinics. Right. I mean, this is not necessarily adding headcount. This is I think supporting in terms of programming and in terms of contractors as well.
Yeah.
I think that we can achieve. We can still continue to increase our public health infrastructure, even though this part-time nurse is not in the budget.
Okay. And then just one last thing, more of a comment, the bullet point below that, continue to pursue state and federal grants, especially the big ones, as you said. I'm spending a lot of time in my day job working on these issues right now, and there's a lot of state and federal money available. I think it's always worth spending a little time and resources at the front end to discern what the appropriate grant applications are, because yeah, they're great, and we've had a great track record the past couple of years, but they're not free lunches. They come with strings attached, and understanding and being able to assess those in advance saves a lot of time and energy in the long run, and probably leads to bigger success in our grant applications, the ones that we do pursue. So.
A couple of comments if I could. These are great. Start with that. Couple of comments on each though. On the construction map, I love the idea, I love adding kind of what's coming. But where I thought you were heading was that it needs to be really easy to use and simple. In other words, if it goes out there and you see Haven Street, and it's got red, green, yellow, and purple lines, I'm not sure that helps anything. So some way that it's very easy to use. So a person is like, I want to see what's going on, boom, it's done. Yeah.
Do you want to send everybody the link that you gave me?
I think we're thinking of going better.
Well,
We're thinking of
obviously you
going
can go better. I did like that, because Jackie did mention the future thing, so it does have icons that you can.
Yeah.
As long as
certain things.
it's simple and easy to use.
It's simple, and I'll share
fun.
that
Alright.
I've had 3 meetings about it, and staff were fired up to get this going. And they don't want to do something, that we do just check a box. We want to build infrastructure to make sure that it's updated, to make sure that it's easy to use, and it's something that actually goes use. When Reading does something, I've learned that we do it well.
Good. And to that point, your next one here, communicate, support staff, open door policy, establish vision, listen, celebrate small wins, and more substantial wins too. I know that goes without saying. On the last point, I really think that training and mentoring is important. I know you get to it a little bit later in here, but I think it's worth putting in this lead: responsiveness and accountability. The culture of excellence in delivering town services, which includes training and mentoring to bring people kind of to their potential. And I think that's an important communication piece. Just on execution, so I don't get executed on Auburn, should be Auburn Street Water Tank as opposed to Auburn Water Street Tank, I think. On momentum, these are great. It says continue progress on senior community center. I'm wondering if that can be a little bit more active a term. and I don't know if advocate is too strong, or lead efforts, clearly the feasibility study, you're the driver, supported by lots and lots of other people. But I think there's something more active that would help on the active living center in terms of what's the level of activity. Is it advocacy, but it's something that's kind of leading communication efforts and progress, something along those lines. I feel much better about that. And that's it. Any other thoughts? Karen?
I would say this format is great. It is a lot simpler and easy to communicate, and it's a reasonable number of buckets. And it is, again, when we have to do performance evaluations, it's going to be very easy. I see measurable responses that, thank you for making my job easier. I shouldn't have to spend 6.5 hours trying to figure out and trying to match goals with results. And I think this is a better structure for us to do that, which is good. Because I think we could be working on better things, more constructive things. The execution, that's great. I just had a quick question. Is DPW doing Mallet Soames Morgan Stormwater? So we've contracted out the urban water street tank. Who's gonna build phase 1 Birch Meadow and Mallet Soames Morgan? For existing staff, what do you think?
So it's all contractor work. For Birch Meadow, we went out to bid with that. The responsibility of oversight for Birch Meadow is gonna be on facility, so Joe Huggins.
Okay.
Joe Huggins mostly is gonna see that. For Mallet Soames, we're almost at the point to bid that out.
Yes.
And that is actually being led by a lot of employees, but really it's Andrew McNichols, Chuck Tyrone, and Alex Rosicki, so from engineering. So it's been
So contracting out the resources.
Yeah, all construction will happen with contractors.
Okay. Continue public engagement process for Oakland Road and Simons Way. That bucket, I've had one resident ask me already, when I was spreading the great news about the safety and traffic improvement grants. They asked, would they be able to be involved? Kind of analogous to the forum you held for the downtown businesses, to let them know what was going on. So I suspect you meant the property at Oakland Road.
I did.
But I would say, let's make sure that when you guys get going on the safety improvements, we think about, I've had a specific request on that.
Yep.
And great, and the net zero plan is perfect. And that should help us with some of these grant projects as well, I think, huh? I agree with Mark on the training and development. And so yeah, I know it's a balancing act. I feel like maybe, so I think if you're putting more, what I'm worried about is if rec is responsible for executing Birch Meadow and doing so much, are they properly staffed to do this and to pursue the grants? But if you're looking to go after Birch Meadow Master Plan Phase 2, I'm reading in there that you're gonna dedicate some more resources so that they can go after grants. Jenna, right? Jenna's the face of Birch Meadow 1 presentation, so that's why, and maybe you're seeing it a different way, but I'm still seeing her as,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
okay. Yep, and so one thought I had was, let's plan to invite Seth Moulton again. And
That was productive last time.
and give him an update on Mallet Soames and talk to him about our Birch Meadow area. And he was in Andover this week and he's coming and visiting communities. So we can make it an annual thing with him. That'd be
Yeah.
great. I think
There's a
that'd be great.
housing forum on next Tuesday in Salem. I'll be seeing him there, and absolutely.
Thanks.
Anything else on? No? We good? We have a motion to approve these?
Yes. Motion to approve town manager goals as amended.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Karen. Any discussion? All right, let's take a vote. All those in favor, raise your hand, please. Opposed? We are 5-0. Great. Fostering volunteering for Reading boards. So we already had some great results. That's wonderful. The people are stepping up. I poked around a little bit just to see what's going on in other communities. And it was really interesting. So are there open board seats and volunteer opportunities in lots of other communities? Yes. Some of them have pages. This is Canton. Sorry, it's upside down because of my printer, but there were pages and pages of openings. So not that that's okay, it's not. But that's kind of the situation. I tried to see what people are doing that's different. The town of Orleans put it on their homepage and really kind of got a little volume pushed up. So it goes through, it says town highlights. Notice for downtown sewer abutters, Aquafund program, seasonal burn permits, ZBA members needed. So they just push it to the top.
That's one of the feedback that Jackie and I got was how we have the circles on our site or whatever, that it would be better if we kind of had one of those circles be volunteer opportunities.
Yeah, volunteerism, yeah.
Because now it's like, how do you gotta go to the whole thing. That was one of the feedback items, so it kind of coincides with what you have there.
To make it easy and
Yep.
visible.
So maybe sub out a button, Fidel, or make another one. You probably can't fit it, but
Make it a different color.
I'm sure they have the analytics on how many times people have clicked on these 5 buttons, and if one of these buttons is like 5%, you can just move it to how do I.
Yeah, colors, to your point, is, I mean, bright, this is, it's got, red and colors, but nice and bright.
Nice.
Other thoughts on, so that's great feedback in terms of what you already heard. The other thoughts we have in terms of how to, I mean, obviously we talk it up regularly. Thank you, Jackie, you tend to be the bringer-upper.
Well, and I think we all do, and I think one of the other things that we heard was very effective is just person-to-person recruitment, whether it's neighbors or existing board members. So I think maybe something for us to, I mean, I know when we're liaisons, we're usually in, just listening mode, but, maybe we get some time at the beginning of the meetings that we attend to just put the word out. I also, just a thought that I've had, and I'd be glad to take on the planning of this, is that can we expand the programming at the town Friends and Family Day or Town Day in June? I mean, as it was, we had a 1 hour for each of us, and it was kind of as it was kind of a bit of a lackluster, not necessarily a great draw, but maybe if we did a little bit of planning and recruited board members to, across boards and committees to come for an hour with us, so that there's not one select board member standing there, there's maybe, 3 or 4 different board members, boards and committee members, because we have, in the boards and committees, a lot of people who have had a really long tenure and obviously are finding something rewarding about it enough to renew.
Maybe it becomes a little bit more of kind of an outbound in terms of what we're doing, as opposed to just kind of saying, select board.
Yeah.
We are. Cool, sounds great. Chris?
Thanks, Mark. I think that if we included something in, not the water bills, whatever comes with the yellow, and it's like, here's the leaf recycling and tree stuff, maybe having something on there about the volunteering thing in an up-and-coming one kind of scenario. The other thought that I had, because like I mentioned, I think we need a shock to the system to get more. I understand other communities might be having, these kind of issues, but we have to do something to get a sizable amount. And I joked about, giving away Target gift cards or something. I've kind of refined my joke down to something that may or may not be possible, is and benefiting the businesses in the downtown that have been affected by the construction, because I've heard from a couple of them that, they're not making the money that they were making before, So my sort of quasi idea would be about buying gift cards with ARPA money for businesses in the downtown, or offering, so the way that it would, obviously we can hash this out, or you can tell me to, it's not happening. We could offer that, if you were to volunteer for a board or committee, here is a list of businesses that you can choose from that, we'd be willing to give a $500 gift card or something for if you join the board or committee. That, these businesses already would have already committed that they would offer, that in the way that it would work is we'd buy a $500 gift card for $400 or something like that. You know what I mean? So they would be getting, the business itself would be getting something out of it. I think it's something to try. Maybe we have some ARPA money left over, something like that, but just go down a list of different businesses. Pizza World, would you be willing to do a $500 gift card for $400 or something? So they're like, absolutely. And then you get, 20 people that want to volunteer for all these different things, and maybe they all pick Pizza World because they like Pizza World. But there could be another bunch of other businesses on there, and it's a way to kind of reinvest back into Reading itself, the downtown businesses, plus try to drum up something. Something has to get shocked into the system for it to happen. Otherwise, we'll just have this conversation next year, and I'm sure Canton is doing the same thing. Something different. So I don't know if it's feasible, if we have money in ARPA, how many people would actually do this? Maybe we're going to get 100, maybe we'll get 2. But it's an idea, and we can refine it or not.
Just thinking I wonder if you do it in smaller increments rather than a big one.
Oh, well, I was trying to get that, when you say 500, it's a lot different than 100, you know what I mean? I'd be open to anything. We got to try something. So if you're saying 100, I'm on board with that. We just got to try something.
Yeah.
Now, people might
I'm thinking 25.
20 odd, I don't know about $25, Mark.
It's not, we can't fund people to join
Correct.
committees.
Is it legal?
It's a sign-on bonus to do it. That's all it is. We're not going to give it to you year after year. But I mean, just think of the time that CPDC puts in on one meeting. I know it's once a month or whatever, but if you build that out at $30-$40 an hour or something, that's kind of lowballing it compared to what they're doing. 4 or 5 hours, that's like $200. At times 12 months, that's $2,400. And obviously with us, it's more, but I'm just giving you examples.
Yeah,
It's
great
something
value.
nominal, but if you want it to be 25, if we can agree on that, something has to change.
I said a great idea. Home run.
Pickleball.
Nope.
All right.
Well, that's good. Always good to work that in. Remember the old Uncle Sam for the military?
Yeah. Well,
I want you.
Yeah. We pick someone from each board and committee.
Well, there you go. Nice.
We make a poster
That's a good one.
and we put it
All of it's out.
all over town. Or it can be us, but I think it's better if it comes from the chair, anyone on the committee. It doesn't have to be a chair or vice chair, but just to say, because there's someone they might recognize, and it's for a particular board. So we don't do rec committee in 20 locations. We do rec committee in 2, conservation in 2. Like we move it around, or we cycle it out every month, whatever. Do the same poster for 1 month. Next cycle we do another committee, wherever the most need is. But I think it's a winner.
You've seen the High Five Club and the High Five posters that go around from the schools where they
Yeah.
feature 2 students
Right, yeah.
week, I think.
Whatever. I think some signage, visuals always help.
I heard finance committee and rec committee, so I'm gonna recruit those members to try this.
Awesome.
This is free. I like free.
Awesome.
Yeah, free. Yeah,
you can have a
free
couple
too.
gift cards.
I like free.
I don't know if that's legal, but let's move on. Let's move on.
So the legal ones. So look, what we're doing is we're marketing this, and I think these are great ideas, and we just want to figure out some stuff that gets people's attention to start, and then there's a way that they see the people that are really satisfied in doing it and say, that feels good. And I think where you found these new residents is really interesting too. We heard at the new resident day last year that some people were interested, but we're kind of sitting back and waiting for them to come to us. And maybe we gotta go a little outbound
Free trash pickup.
Free trash barrel.
for life.
Free trash.
Move on from him, please, move on.
Okay, we good on that one?
Yes,
So what are we doing, posters?
definitely.
First, we'll start off with that, or?
I think we
I am
poke
on.
around, yeah, posters sound like a great
Finance committee tomorrow. We'll get
quickie.
Marriott Downing and Ed Roth. Let's get pictures.
Awesome.
Right? Yeah, awesome. Yeah. That's what it's all about.
So next item on here was discuss purchase of real property for municipal use. So
All the stuff that
we had thought there was gonna be a meeting where we would be able to provide some updates. It got postponed to later this week. So it just kind of happened. So we don't really have that. But included in the packet was the visual and the presentation that the architect gave to the joint meeting of the Council on Aging and Recalc. So that's in the packet. And it was very, thought-provoking. Basically, it creates a second floor. In terms of the inside difference, you go from 15,000 square feet to 20,000 square feet. And then there are many other things going on, but that's the big driver. And in this particular rendition, there is a 2-story parking garage on the back that's been created in here. And there are, there's a bit more detail. Again, this was you call him the house doctor?
the house doctor.
Yeah, so it was meant to be thought-provoking, and it was meant to respond to some of the questions that were brought up on kind of what's happening. What it gave back to us, though, are some more cost estimates. We had kind of what I call the minimal approach before. This is more on the other end of the spectrum in terms of what's going on, right?
That is correct, Mark. Very good.
And I think that the meetings were interesting with an understanding that people had, you won't get everything necessarily, but I think it was good in those ways. I think it gives us a lot more information also because, number one, as we're thinking about the purchase, this obviously is gonna feed into our calculations, and then later down the road, we'll get back things from an architect, and we'll have to, working with the community, figure out which one we think the broad community would support. So I think there's great progress. If there are particular questions about that, Fidel, probably you're in the best position to answer those. But clearly there's no need for an executive session tonight, and I think we're hoping that by the 21st, I think we should put this back on that wonderful agenda. I think it already is on the 21st agenda. Put your seatbelt for the 21st. But hopefully there would be an update, and we could have some sessions to talk about it then.
Is the update that you were supposed to get confirmation on a number, and that's what we don't have tonight, or what is, like?
So we shared a proposal, and we're waiting to kind of literally sit down and see if there are other things that we don't understand. It's taken a little while to actually sit in person to do it, which I think would be much better. But it'll be happening later this week.
And I do share your sentiment about this being on the other end of the spectrum. It is like the Taj Mahal or the Plaza della Reading or whatever the email that we got said. It is true. I mean, it's an amazing looking building. It's super expensive, and I don't see it happening even with my parking garage that I kind of wanted kind of thing. But once again, there could be the grant where we get the $5 million parking garage for nothing because it's specific to a parking garage. We don't know that, but if you did, minus the $5 million off, now we're starting to get a little bit better. So it's good to see it on the other end of the spectrum, how it is in there. I don't think the color fits kind of scenario, the facade over there and whatnot, but at least it's something in there.
Yeah, and so again, our next step is to sit down and talk things through a bit further and see where we're together and where we're not. And after that meeting, we should be able to have there'll be some update to share with them. Any other questions on it at this point? No? All right. Future agendas. So the 21st is really packed. We have a lot of presentations coming in. There what I did, Town Forest is coming in. There have been some issues related to dogs, so I think it's important that they come in with a presentation. Recalc's coming in. We just talked about potentially an update here, and then all the other items that we already talked about, and it was already pushing it. So we may have to juggle a little bit. But let's see.
Quick question, thank you, I'm perfectly fine with it. Is Forrest coming in for an ask or just what's going on?
It's an
Or both,
update.
or both?
It's really an update on everything that's been going on.
Okay.
With the funds that have been given to them,
Yeah.
with questions that have come up about the clearing of trees.
Okay,
What's happening with invasive species.
okay.
And then the other big topic for them has been issues with dogs in the
Yeah.
forest.
I've heard about it, yeah.
And so it's an issue. And so
Okay.
it's good timing to share. They have some thoughts on what to do potentially for a November town meeting. And the board should think about, how we see that happen.
It's a good segue into a future agenda for a dog park, I guess.
So, yeah. I mean, I think we're gonna talk through all the issues related. I mean, it's, how do we wanna deal with that as a board? Jackie?
Question on process on the vote on recommendation of parking violation fees and potential changes. When we discussed that, I believe at the last meeting, we had some follow-up questions about readjusting some of the fee violation fees increases, and I believe there was some email traffic maybe with Ivrea after that. I'm just wondering from a process perspective, now that we're thinking about a new set of parking fees, whether we need to discuss those before we vote on them.
So did we talk about any changes in the fees? I thought the main discussion related to, can we do multiple tickets per day? What would be required? How would we do that? I think that was one of the follow-up items. Did we talk about changing?
Well, the
fees too?
follow-up, we agreed to the proposed changes on the fees that go on.
Yeah, so that's my question.
Yeah.
I didn't think that we talked about changing the fees from there, but was I wrong?
I recall the follow-up being, are we required to provide signage?
Right.
Are we required to provide signage?
That was for
when we make
me.
these changes? Yeah, and
That was answered.
it was answered as, no, we're not required.
Correct.
And in fact, it would be very administratively burdensome because
Right.
we do the change, we change 10,000 signs and then you decide to change it,
Again,
following
no,
month.
that's why, I know, I get it.
I don't think we voted on the number because
We didn't vote on any.
No, we didn't vote on anything.
Yeah, but the question was, were there different numbers that were to be considered, that we wanted to consider?
Yeah, I stand corrected. I just wanted to make sure if we did have a difference in the actual fees, if we were changing fees differently than what we talked about back on February 21st, that we had an opportunity for the public to, comment on it, and that we kind of stuck toward our two-step of, discuss at one meeting and vote on the other. Doesn't apply here, because as I just pulled up the email, as Carlo
Yeah.
pointed out, Ivrea gave us advice on the signage, not on some other rate structure different from what we heard or talked about on February 21st. Yeah, disregard.
Does it, I'm not sure, I should know the answer, but does it need to be a public hearing? Because we're changing rates or no?
I'll ask that question.
Fees, we're changing the fees?
I don't believe so, but I'll ask the
Wasn't it a
question.
public hearing last time?
I
I think it was.
It wasn't advertised.
It wasn't advertised?
don't think so. I don't remember Chris reading anything.
I
We
read
had
a lot
two last time.
I had two.
Right?
We had traffic improvements, stop signs, but the
Oh, and then the other one was
presentation
the
was not.
license for
Alcohol.
Anthony's.
Right. Yep.
For pizza, right, so we didn't have a public hearing. Okay, so that's a question. Do we need to have a public hearing?
I think we
Yeah,
do.
I'm sure the answer is yes, yes. Yeah, sure we do. Oh, no worries, we'll just tuck it into the 21st.
It would make sense, because if we say handicap things are going up $10,000, people would.
Should we push that one to April? Or we think it's a public hearing, we have to provide notice?
14.
Yeah, we don't have enough time
We
anyway.
don't have enough time.
Okay, so let's figure out when the next would be, but it sounds like it's April.
Yeah, I don't wanna screw it up for us.
Yeah, so April 18th is actually our next meeting. There's only one meeting in April.
But we have many meetings in April.
One
Just
select
not-
board
Just
meeting.
not select board meeting.
Yeah, maybe that goes better to the 18th.
I could be wrong.
No,
I think you're right.
I'm not even gonna ask the question. We'll just move it to the 18th.
All right.
We'll do the public hearing. Better save the sorry.
Okay, and we've got the space held here. I didn't understand what it said, lining options for Sturgis. I was thinking of kind of a rink liner or a pool liner. It's lining, it's the lining
Yeah,
of
I
the
know.
surface.
I know what you mean.
Hey, took me an extra minute.
And I'll let you know what happens on Monday. I'll send it to Fidel. Obviously, I can't communicate it.
Great.
I'll send it to
Yeah,
Fidel
Fidel
what
can share.
happens on Monday.
Okay. Anything else?
I do have one item, so the select board policy, 1.6.8 is to declare surplus policy, property for anything of value. If you recall, the town meeting approved in November the replacement of all police handguns. It's $80,000 to purchase new handguns. And at town meeting, what the question came up about what are we going to do with the existing handguns? What we're going to do it with the help of town council is we're going to bid it out all together as one package. Essentially, the same company that we're going to buy the handguns from must accept the old handguns, obviously traded in, and therefore, in Massachusetts, there's only 2 or 3 companies that you could buy handguns from, because obviously it's very regulated. So it won't be auctioned off in a website or it won't be anything like that. It will go to one of the 3 only companies that sell SIG handguns in Massachusetts, and it's really just one. So
Put that on the 21st.
the select board has to vote it as surplus officially.
So town meeting has already approved this.
Yeah.
And so for us, it's basically approving the process. It's voting to say, yes.
This is surplus.
Go ahead. Okay, that's surplus. Thank you. Yeah, surplus items. Okay. Kyle?
And then I'd like to get, hopefully on the 18th, I guess it would be an RFP, vote to pursue an RFP for town council.
So,
I don't know the procedure for that.
On April 18th?
yeah, if we could probably move that to March 21st because we've just opened up the,
It's a lot.
yeah. Let's see what it looks like. I mean, I think the reality is, let's not put 500 pounds into.
No, we know everything goes longer. I don't need it next meeting.
Listen, and I know, it probably is it RFP or is it to discuss, getting new information?
Yeah, I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know.
Yeah, we should see what it is. I don't even know if it requires an RFP.
Well, if Jackie's correct, there's only a handful of firms that handle this kind of stuff.
Right. I don't know what, so maybe we need to get some more information on how to handle it. And we probably have to talk about too, what is it that we're really looking for? Is it an RFP process or is it checking certain things? Is it actually, but I mean, we haven't decided
Yeah.
going out to bid.
Oh, no,
We're deciding
it
how
can
we
be
wanna
discussed
approach it.
again. It can be, whatever. This was brief tonight. I mean, it was, it was thank you every night, which is warranted, but it was, I think the origination of this agenda item for today was to, let's see what's out there. And how do we see what's out there? That I don't know. Because I don't know. Could be 10 firms, could be 3.
Yeah, I think we should have more discussion about it, because, I mean, just to kind of vote up or down, should we do an RFP? I'm not sure accomplishes what, I mean, I hear you, but I'm not sure for me it's accomplishing,
I think an
thing.
RFI would be better. That's just request for information, and you could get 10 people back or not, kind of thing. That seems more RFPs after the RFI kind of scenario.
Yeah, I mean,
Information, just information. It's not binding. That's all it is.
Any thoughts?
I mean, I would think MMA has guidance on this too,
That's a great idea.
so I'll take a look at that. I mean, Yeah, because I mean, I know in like, the private sector, law firms don't tend to go the RFP route, but I know this is different, but yeah. I would think MMA may have some guidance, not that we have to follow it, but just some examples.
Would Carla wanna do that? I mean, you're super awesome for speaking up, but it's your agenda item. Would you like to do the research? That'd be awesome.
Well, yeah.
Unless you really want to, in which case you're just gonna hit me later.
Just curious to look
That's
at
okay.
it, yeah.
Yeah, I think the MMA stuff could be really helpful. It doesn't strike me that this is something that you really bid.
I don't know, how did we acquire them 20 years ago? I have no idea, I wasn't here.
I don't think there's bidding or anything involved. I
So
think
at
we
the
have a
MMA
search
conference, they
committee.
have a giant trade show, so that's one of the purposes of going to the annual conference is to go through the trade show. And so that's
These
how
other
Jackie knows
firms.
there's not that many firms
Yeah.
out there, and I wasn't really paying attention, but she's right.
Well, I don't know.
There's a few big ones that throw pens at you.
I think it's more, yeah, and there's a few big ones who, do a lot of talking at the MMA show, and I don't, I know some of our other town organizations have worked with the biggest of the big, but, I just think it's a relatively specialized area like anything else, because even among municipal council, there's municipal council for a place. I would be most interested to hear of what the good options are for peer communities. I'd be less, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I do think MMA could be helpful, so we'll look at that.
Yeah, I'm not looking for the 21st, I'm
Yeah.
looking just to,
Okay.
let's look into it.
Yeah.
Anything else? All right, minutes. I had no changes.
Yeah, I'm good.
I didn't send any changes, but you know what, the way that the liaison report on the RMLD is described is not really accurate. Let's see, find that again. I just wanna tighten up the language. Where is it? Sorry, I guess this is the beginning. Okay, so, well, the pair event, we should just say there included a presentation by RMHS students. And then okay, so we don't need to see RMLD met, but I think what I was reporting was that they discussed the expiration of the Palmer biomass contract at the end of March 2023.
Okay, so why don't should we live edit? Caitlin, can you live edit?
Sure. All right, so what do you want this to say?
It should say it was a pair event which included a presentation by RMHS high school students.
So add the word which. Oh, nicely, sorry. My bad.
And I think I mentioned the group name, I don't, Asaka, I forget what it stands for.
So after the word event, if we could just add the word which. By RMHS, and just get rid of the
Which
high school.
included a presentation.
Yep.
Yep.
So RMHS, then delete high and school. Perfect. Okay, now RMLD.
Okay, RMLD discussed the expiration of the Palmer biomass contract, March 2023.
March 2000, what'd you say?
Yes, March 2023, the end of March. And they approved, okay, the rate increase is fine. The next sentence, instead of price increase, it should say rate increase. at that turnaround. ZBA needs another member, we got one. That's okay. That's, yep, that's fine. Thank you.
Anything else?
Is that accurate now, though, with the approved rate increase and rate increase? It's on there twice now? Or am I?
So I think it's accurate, because the question was, could the fuel stabilization fund be used to offset rate increases?
Right, so, okay, so it does have to be on there twice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Last call?
Good.
All right, how about a motion, please?
Move to approve the meeting minutes of February 21st, 2023 as amended.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Karen. Any discussion? None appearing, ready for a vote. All those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? We are 5-0.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second?
Thanks, Karen. All those in favor? Opposed? 5-0. Thank you all.